Dear ladies and gentlemen, dobre ráno a vitajte na našom podujatí. A very good morning and a very warm welcome to our EU Finance Day 2022 for Slovakia. My name is Tilda Juhász. I work as a policy officer in the unit dealing with access to finance in the Commission's Department, Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, and I will be your moderator today. We have a fully packed morning ahead of us with many excellent speakers who will present to you the InvestEU Fund and its windows, the InvestEU Advisory Hub and the InvestEU Portal. We will hear about the European Investment Fund and its debt and equity products and the InvestEU Call for Expression of Interest for Financial Intermediaries, which was published 2 months ago. We will touch upon funding opportunities from the European Innovation Council for startups and SMEs to develop and scale up game-changing innovations. And last but not least, we will share with you insights on how the Single Market Programme and the Enterprise Europe Network supports small businesses in Slovakia. When planning this event at the end of 2021, in the middle of the last COVID wave, we opted for a fully online event to make sure we can connect today, however the COVID situation were. We will try to make this webinar as interactive as possible and give you the opportunity to ask and contribute. We will try to take some of your questions already in the morning sessions. For this, we will be using Slido, a tool you might already familiar with. You can access Slido here on the left-hand side of your screen, or you can use your smartphone or the browser of your computer and go to slido.com, or you just quickly scan the QR code you can see displayed hopefully here on the screen and enter the hashtag EU Finance Day _Slovakia. You can also vote which question you consider more important, so we can prioritize them accordingly by clicking on thumbs up next to the questions. Additionally, after the presentations, there will be 4 parallel breakout sessions from 12:45 to 1:15 p.m., where you will be able to directly ask your questions. You will be able to join this Q&A session of your choice by clicking on one of the links displayed at the end of the agenda on the event website. But also you can join to the breakout rooms through the links which we will publish on Slido. If you go to slido.com, you will find these links there as well. We are providing a simultaneous interpretation from Slovak to English and from English to Slovak, and we would like to thank in advance to our interpreters for their precious work. When you connected to the event this morning, you would have been given the choice of the language you prefer to follow the live stream. But there is also a toolbar at the bottom of the video window where you can select the language you want, or you can switch between the languages. Our webinar will be recorded and the organizers will make the recording available a couple of days after the event. The presentations are already available at the event website. Finally, but very importantly for us, after the event, we will be sending you a short survey via email that we would invite you to complete. This will help us to improve future events. Thank you in advance for participating in the survey. So after all the practical information and housekeeping, we are now very much looking forward to our 3 introductory speakers. Please welcome first Astrid Bartels, Head of Unit in the Directorate Investment at the European Commission, DG Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs.
Good morning and thank you, Hilda. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here with you today for this launching event of InvestEU and other relevant EU initiatives aimed specifically at Slovakia. It's the 3rd in a series of events the Commission organizes this year in order to raise awareness for EU support programs and to support the InvestEU implementation. Today's challenges require combined efforts and actions at national and at European level. The COVID pandemic was a shock that required immediate support measures for affected companies to stay afloat. the EU as well as the member states acted quickly and decisively with unparalleled amount of support measures. But then, just when we believe we may be able to turn the page on COVID, Russia's invasion of Ukraine highlighted again the vulnerability of our economy. And in addition to the human tragedies, the war in Ukraine has led to sharp increases in prices of commodities and energy and to the disruption of supply chain. Consequently, we have to invest in the resilience of our economy and to ensure that EU financing is available for emerging technologies related to batteries, solar energy, hydrogen, raw materials, semiconductors to achieve our strategic independence. This necessitates a massive amount of recovery support for the EU economy and targeted investments fully aligned with our overall policy objectives. Furthermore, the threats that climate change bring to our way of living and our economy are becoming increasingly visible every year. According to the Commission's estimates, the additional annual investments needed for the digital and sustainable transition are estimated to be around 650 billion up to 2030. And the green transition accounts for roughly 520 billion of this amount, so 80% of all of the needed investments. So access to finance and investing in the right policy priorities has become more important than ever. And InvestEU is one of the Commission's flagship programs to help address the investment needs. InvestEU is expected to mobilize more than 370 billion in public and private resources in the coming years. It builds on the successful model of the European Fund for Strategic Investments, or also known as the Juncker Plan. InvestEU will finance investments in line with the EU's policy priorities, such as the European Green Deal, Europe's Digital Decade, the Renovation Wave, or the SME Strategy. InvestEU is a program that has 4 windows for the needs of SMEs and small mid-caps, for research, innovation, and digitalization, for social investments and skills, and last but not least, for sustainable infrastructure investments. InvestEU also has a dedicated advisory hub and an investment portal, which will contribute to increasing the quality and number of investment projects and favor the matching between project promoters and investors. I'm very happy to say that the InvestEU program is up and running. The guarantee agreement between the European Commission and the EIB group was signed on the 7th of March. Discussions with 18 other implementing partners that applied to use the InvestEU guarantee across the EU is advancing, and the Investment Committee approved to use the InvestEU guarantee for a first series of operations. And last but not least, the calls for expression of interest for InvestEU debt and equity products are already published by the EIF, so the subsidiary of the European Investment Bank, and interested financial intermediaries can apply. You will hear in more detail what types of investments InvestEU can support in the course of this morning. You will also hear about the EIC Accelerator, which supports very early stage companies to de-risk and scale up high impact innovations, and about the Single Market Program, which is a specific pillar supporting the competitiveness, capacity building, and sustainability of SMEs. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to succeed in supporting the EU recovery and responding to today's challenges, we need to work together. Financial institutions in Slovakia have already experience with EU financial instruments such as COSME, Innofin, EFSI, and I believe that this successful cooperation will now continue with the new instruments that the Commission has to offer. I wish all of you a very informative and interesting session. Back to you, Hilda.
Thank you very much, Astrid. And now I would like to invite Zdeněk Čech from the European Commission's representation in Bratislava. Zdeněk, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to welcome you at the EU Finance Days from the Commission representation in Bratislava, Palisady. I'm replacing today Vladimír Šucha, who could not make it actually due to other commitments, head of representation. I just would like to say that that this is a great initiative, that what we see on the ground, that such supporting instruments are keeping, investment levels, including in Slovakia, high. I mean, the investments, it's a backbone of the EU economy, and stable and growing investments, especially private investments, are key to the growth of the Slovak economy. If we want the Slovak economy is catching up towards the EU levels in terms of the living standards. This was already said here, but I reiterate, the COVID and Russian invasion of Ukraine has undoubtedly put more pressure on Europe amid extraordinary uncertainty. As this includes Slovakia, that is actually on the borderline with the conflict. And now, actually, the high and volatile inflation is actually making it toll and more difficult for the private operators to invest. And I think this is actually the place where we are starting from, where actually the programs such as InvestEU can make a difference. We have many tools, to support investments at the European level. I mean, here at the representation, I'm mostly dealing with the Recovery and Resilience Fund. Besides, European structural investment funds, I think still, that the bulk of the investments, and we see it on the figures, how much we need for the green transition, how much we need for the Recover EU to become independent from the Russian fossil fuels, how much investment we need. Still, bulk of the investments needs to be mobilized through private sources. And I think this is where the InvestEU program comes very much into the play, and also with with the notions that at least 30% of investment with the 4 windows, and that the 30% of investments under InvestEU will need to go to the climate change mitigation. I think that another buzzword, that I like about the InvestEU program is the simplification that actually brings together a dozen of EU financial instruments, such CASME and Innofin, under one umbrella. And I think this will be very important, for operators on the ground. Also, I mean, where you see that, some gaps, what we have identified, in the analysis of the country report of the European Commission, such sectors where you need more investments. I hope that, they will, for sure, we will find a way there, for instance, for SMEs, for social sector, and for the circular economy. My last comment is that I would like to say that the member states, including Slovakia, have the possibility to contribute part of their shared management funding, into the InvestEU. I think this is still not a closed opportunity. And with this voluntary contribution, I think that member states can give to national and regional investments more firepower with less red tape. And I think for Slovakia, this may be still, something for consideration if there would not be enough resources at the InvestEU and prove the success. Moving some funds out of the shared management can still be option, given also the fact that Slovakia's absorption of the SIF is relatively difficult. We have indicators that Slovakia absorbs still only 53% out of 2014-2020 SIF cohesion envelope. So I look really much forward, to successful implementation of all these programs, and wish you all interesting exchanges during the event today. All the best.
Thank you so much, Zdenek, for your introductory remarks. And I would now like to invite Gerd-Uwe Weller, head of the European Investment Bank Group Office in Slovakia, to deliver his introductory remarks.
Yes, can I
Gerd, yes. So
Okay.
Gerd, please.
Yeah, Dr. Dana Vashindi Dami Apani. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome from the EIB Group Bratislava office, also in Palisade 29. It's a bit bizarre that Zdenek and I are basically sitting in the same building, one level apart and meeting online. Anyway, the adoption of the legislation for InvestEU has been a very strong message to Europe, and the InvestEU program is an excellent tool to address our current challenges, which are the economic and social recovery from the pandemic, the green transition, the digitalization, and what we had to add rather recently and very unfortunately, the consequences of the dreadful war in Ukraine. Having said that, the 4 windows of InvestEU puts the right focus on how to deal with that. And the EIB is very proud that after successfully implementing and managing the Juncker plan, we are again entrusted by the Commission to manage 75% of the EU budget guarantee and of the advisory budget available under InvestEU. We will apply the full range of all our products, from direct loans to corporates, via intermediate loans to PPPs, to portfolio guarantees to banks, to equity investments in funds, to tackle those challenges. But what is more important to me is that we also offer advisory services, particularly in Slovakia, because here you can read basically every day in the press what is missing in Slovakia is the number of mature projects. So under the advisory hub, we can offer both technical and financial advisory to identify, design, assess, and further implement projects. So I can only urge everyone interested to make use of such advisory services. Having said that, you will learn a lot in the presentations about InvestEU, and I hope you also will have fruitful conversations, exchanges of views in the breakout rooms. So I wish you all a very informative and pleasant event. Thanks, Hilda. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Gerd, for your remarks. And now we are coming to our first session, where my Commission colleagues will present to you the new InvestEU program. Our first speaker is Ramona Ocak. Ramona is a policy officer in the Directorate General Economic and Financial Affairs at the European Commission. She is working in the unit in charge of the InvestEU program. Ramona, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hilda, and thanks a lot also to Astrid, Zdenek, and Gerd for this very nice introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you here and to present you this new flagship program, as Astrid mentioned, of the European Commission, InvestEU. So I have also prepared a short presentation. I don't know if you can see it already on the screen. Yes, okay. So InvestEU builds on the positive experience of the Investment Plan for Europe with its European Fund for Strategic Investments, the EFSI, which was implemented by the European Commission and the European Investment Bank Group. So with the help of a new budget guarantee of 33 billion euros, within 5 years, EFSI mobilized investments of almost 550 billion euros. So with that, around 730 infrastructure projects benefited from EU-funded investment support, and more than 800 deals or investments were made in funds and supporting SMEs access to finance. So around 1.5 million SMEs benefited from financing. The Investment Plan for Europe also helped financing more than 500,000 affordable flats in the EU, renewable energy for over 10 million households, as well as better waste treatment for more than 30 million people in Europe. It is estimated that by 2022, investments realized with the Investment Plan for Europe and the EFSI increased the European Union's GDP by almost 2% and added almost 2 million jobs compared to the baseline scenario. So let's have a look into more detail on the EFSI figures of Slovakia. On the next slide, you see that the total financing under the European Fund for Strategic Investment in Slovakia amounted to 640 million euros and is set to trigger 2 billion euros in additional investments. So we had 11 approved infrastructure and innovation projects that were financed by the European Investment Bank with the EFSI backing, and approximately 520 million in total financing, which is set to trigger 1 billion euro in total investment. This also includes R&D projects, also energy and efficiency and education projects. If we have a look at the SMEs, so we had 8 approved agreements with intermediary banks financed by the European Investment Fund with EFSI backing. So in total, 120 million euros in financing were set to trigger approximately 700 million euros in investments, with around 13,000 SMEs and mid-caps benefiting and expected to benefit from improved access to finance. So next slide, please. So the InvestEU, as we heard before, contributes to a sustainable growth of the EU economy, driven by private and public sector investments and supporting EU policy priorities such as the Green Deal, the digital transition, innovation, and social investments and skills. The program consists of 3 components, so the InvestEU Fund, the InvestEU Advisory Hub, and the InvestEU Portal. The InvestEU Fund will be implemented through financial partners who will invest in projects using the EU budget guarantee. The InvestEU Advisory Hub will provide technical assistance, and the InvestEU Portal will provide visibility to European projects and connect them with investors, so it acts as a matchmaking tool. I will come into more detail into the different components in a couple of minutes. Next slide, please. So the InvestEU program is part of the Next Generation EU program, which is a 800 billion euro temporary recovery instrument, and the new EU multi-annual financial framework for the years 2021 to 2027. So Next Generation EU and the multi-annual EU budget have been designed, and also as we heard before from Zdeněk, to overcome the damage, so the economic and social damage caused by the coronavirus pandemic, and also the current problems that occur with the Ukraine crisis. So the investment focus in the EU will be towards a greener, more digital, and more resilient and better fit for economy for the current and forthcoming challenges that are ahead of us. So it is to help to shift the growth to new green and digital sectors, to also strengthen EU leadership in research, development and innovation, including in the area of healthcare, and to boost the startup ecosystem in Europe, but also to support, of course, the recovery. Next slide, please. So let's come into more detail for the 3 components of the InvestEU program. So as I mentioned before, we have 3 components. Let's start with the first one, the InvestEU Fund. So the InvestEU Fund will be implemented through financial partners who will invest in the projects using the EU budget guarantee of 26 billion euros. So the majority of this EU budget guarantee, so 75%, is attributed to the financial products offered by the EIB Group, our main implementing partner. The remaining 25% of this EU budget guarantee is accessible to other international financial institutions active in the EU and national promotional banks. As we heard before, with InvestEU, we would like to mobilize more than 370 billion euros in additional investments across Europe by attracting public and private investments. The InvestEU fund will provide therefore loans, equity or guarantees, so no grants. As Astrid mentioned before, in March this year, a guarantee agreement was already signed with the EIB and the EIF, so it's already up and running. Next slide, please. Our main objective under the InvestEU program, as I said before, is to attract private capital and mobilize more than 370 billion euros to support public and private investments in key EU policy priorities structured under these 4 policy windows. So these are sustainable infrastructure, research, innovation and digitization, small and medium-sized companies, and social investments and skills. So these are very important sectors, as Zdeněk also mentioned before in his presentation. There is also a link to the Recovery and Resilience Facility. So funds from the RRF may be contributed by the member states for provisioning the InvestEU guarantee. Next slide, please. So this brings me now to the Advisory Hub. So the Advisory Hub provides technical assistance to project promoters who seek technical and advisory support. So the Advisory Hub has been launched already following the signature of the first agreement with the EIB and is already up and running. It is operational. So interested project promoters can submit their request via our central entry points. So if you're interested, please visit our website and you can enter through the central entry point your request and questions, which we will then submit to our advisory partners. So the Hub's role is to connect public and private promoters or companies and financial intermediaries with advisory partners who then work directly together to help projects reach their financing stage. Again, the advisory support is also focused on the EU priorities around these 4 policy windows that I mentioned earlier. The advisory partners will assist project promoters during the entire project life cycle. So from identification and preparation through the development or financial structuring to procuring and implementation of the investment projects. So also here, the European Investment Bank Group remains our main advisory partner and will implement 75% of the InvestEU Advisory Hub budget. So next slide, please. This brings me to the last and third component of the InvestEU program, which is the InvestEU portal. So the InvestEU portal is offering a database of investable projects in the EU. It's free of charge and the submission happens online. We have now more than 1,300 projects already published on the portal in various sectors, in particular in the green and digital sectors. In order to be eligible for publication, projects need to fulfill our minimum admission criteria, which are a minimum project size, so the total project cost of 500,000 euros, to be active in one of our predetermined sectors, which you can see also that we cover digital sector, resources and environment, tourism, health. So we cover a wide range of sectors, so in investable projects in the EU. Of course, the projects have to be situated and promoted by a public or private legal entity established in one of the EU member states and should have started already or start within the next 3 years. And of course, they have to be clearly described as an investment project to attract as many as investors as possible, and of course to be compatible with national and EU law. So here I would like to end my short introduction of the InvestEU program and head over to you, Hilda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ramona, for the general presentation on the InvestEU program. In the next 40 minutes, my Commission colleagues will introduce you to the 4 windows of the InvestEU fund. The first speaker, Zita Joka, will present the sustainable infrastructure window. Zita works as a policy analyst for energy investments at the Commission's Department Energy. Zita, please.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you, colleagues, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Sustainable Infrastructure Window, where DG ENER and DG MOVE is the co-chair of the window. And I'd like to explain to you what the window is, what it can offer to you and to Slovakia's journey on sustainability. So as the colleagues have explained, it's very important to emphasize that InvestEU has been designed as a policy-driven instrument in the EU budget. The Sustainable Infrastructure Window is aligned with the objectives of the European Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package. The Fit for 55 package, as you might be familiar, is a very comprehensive set of legislative proposals that will bring about a transformational change towards a fair, cost-efficient economy and do so in a competitive manner. We must also mention, as the colleagues initially have laid out, that as a reply to the Russian aggression against Ukraine, EU leaders have decided to phase out dependence on fossil fuel imports. So not yet a month ago, the Commission has presented a plan to achieve those objectives. And REPowerEU is about rapidly reducing our dependence on Russian fossil fuel by fast-forwarding to the clean transition and achieving a more resilient energy system and a true energy union. Next slide, please. If we zoom in specifically to the context of Slovakia, using the example of the energy sector, although the Sustainable Infrastructure Window, as I must emphasize, is much more than energy, we see a significant progress with further opportunities remaining, offering investment opportunities that InvestEU aims at supporting, where private capital does not yet suffice. So, for example, Slovakia has surpassed this 2020 renewables energy target, and we welcome this progress, but more efforts are needed in order to accelerate the deployment of renewables in Slovakia. This would require significant investments in renewable energy projects, not only in electricity, but also, of course, heating, cooling, and transport. Similarly, in case of energy efficiency, Slovakia has an opportunity to exploit its energy efficiency potential by further investing in renovation of buildings, replacing domestic heating systems, as well as reforming social housing. As also introduced by our colleagues in the EIB, what remains in our understanding as a barrier is a lack of advisory services amongst Slovakia barriers. And this would help a lot to build a pipeline of investable projects at scale, especially in the building sector, that should still become much more sustainable. There has been many other developments that we're aware of in Slovakia, where, again, it's difficult not to emphasize the investment challenge, which presents the investment opportunities. And here, InvestEU, along with the EU budgetary instruments, will have quite a substantial role in providing financial impetus. Next slide, please. So the Sustainable Infrastructure Window was designed to help the journey on sustainability. So there are key themes in the design of the window. On the one hand, as I just mentioned, it should support REPowerEU, the European Green Deal, and of course, the just transition. Here, by nature of InvestEU, the main function of this instrument is to come in case of market failure or suboptimal investments, to provide EU added value, and to also contribute to the just transition, where the importance here lies in just transition regions compliant with member states' just transition plans. In case of the green theme, as emphasized already, the InvestEU is expected to contribute to the climate objective, similar to many other financial programs. And in case of InvestEU, the ambition level is at least 30% contribution to climate objectives. But for the Sustainable Infrastructure Window, we have designed an additional objective or target of 60% for climate and environment. Here, the main target is, as I've mentioned, to reorient capital flows towards sustainable investments, to be sure that whatever is being financed by the sustainable infrastructure window, we require sustainability proofing, which has a link with the EU taxonomy, which is the harmonized classification system of environmentally sustainable activities. Furthermore, it's not only about green, but the sustainable infrastructure window is also expected to deliver on strategic and digital objectives. This technically means strategic investments in critical infrastructure, defense, the space sector, and in cybersecurity. And of course, on the digital side, the deployment of future technologies, for example, 5G connectivity. Next slide, please. Again, beyond these three main themes, the objectives of the sustainable infrastructure window reach out to many policy areas, and we actually see from the recipient's perspective a lot of policy areas being covered by the sustainable infrastructure window. So decarbonization in general, but also cross-border infrastructure projects in the theme of transport, energy, and communications, cross-sectoral synergies, innovative technologies and their deployment, strategic investments, critical infrastructures, and all these target a very wide array of recipients, be those special purpose vehicles, corporate projects by private, public, or semi-public enterprises, or even standalone promoters. Next slide, please. So not only does the sustainable infrastructure window have a very strong policy focus and a relatively wide scope, but we have already, as the colleagues have introduced you, have already started basically the implementation of the InvestEU, including a sustainable infrastructure window, through the signed guarantee agreement with the EIB group. Needless to say, as Ramona has also explained, beyond the EIB group, who implements 75% the guarantee, there's another 25% open to potential implementing partners. But here, perhaps a flavor of what we have so far designed with the EIB group in terms of financial products under the guarantee, give a good understanding of how these policy objectives translate into very concrete financial products under this 9.9 billion sustainable infrastructure window. So on the one hand, we designed general products and on the other hand, thematic products. The difference between the two is that thematic products are high policy value, high risk projects where EU financing would be absolutely crucial and deliver the highest EU added value. In case of general products, we have come up with a general debt product with the EIB under the sustainable infrastructure window, which would capture quite a large range of targeted areas. This would cover most of the policy objectives that I've mentioned before, so sustainable transport, the clean energy transition, environment and resources, tourism, bioeconomy, and the decarbonization of industry, but also the future technologies on digital, space, and defense. Again, here, because it's a relatively broad scope product, there's also a wide range of recipients. Moving on with the EIB group, we have also designed a general equity with the EIF, which I think we will hear about a bit later. Here, the focus is the climate and infrastructure funds. Unlike the general debt product, we designed something that goes across windows. So this specific product is together with the social window. So it's a sustainable infrastructure and social window product. Similarly, we will hear more about the sustainability guarantee, again, a product share between the SME window and the sustainable infrastructure window. Concerning thematics, we have designed two main products with the EIB group. One is green transition investment, again, shared or cross-window product, if you wish. And the PF4E, which some of you might be familiar with, this product has already existed. It's a tested instrument. It's a capped portfolio guarantee, which targets predominantly energy efficiency SMEs for energy efficiency and renewable supply chains. This is the plethora of products that we've discussed with the IB group under the scope of the InvestEU regulation and, of course, the investment guidelines, and similar conversations on this design of what products are going with the other potential implementing partners. If we move on to the next slide, I will just very briefly explain what the thinking has been on the advisory initiatives as emphasized by Ramona and the colleagues ahead of her on the importance of advisory. There are two main initiatives under the sustainable infrastructure window, which we believe are absolutely crucial to create a project pipeline that is attractive for investments and hopefully will help accelerate the transition. On the one hand, there is the ELENA advisory, which is again a tested solution that has existed already in the current financial framework. This is predominantly project development services in the field of energy efficiency and integrated renewables, as well as sustainable transport in cities. It has some very specific features, one of which is the minimum expected leverage factor, which has, in our evaluation, resulted in rather substantial results, is something that we kept for the design of ELENA. And the other main advisory initiative under the sustainable infrastructure window, again discussed with the IB group, is the sustainable infrastructure advisory, which has a broader scope than ELENA. So it captures most of the policy areas under the sustainable infrastructure window. It covers bioeconomy, digital connectivity, decarbonization of industry, beyond what I've mentioned. Has a 40% climate contribution, and again, a rather wide range of beneficiaries. On top of that, there is a segment of this, which is the green advisory support that targets the environmental sectors to boost investments. As explained by Astrid at the beginning, there is quite a large investment gap to cover in the forthcoming period, some of which is corresponding to environmental challenges. So this specific element under the sustainable infrastructure advisory, the green advisory support, focuses exactly on that. So I hope this allows you to have a sneak peek at what InvestEU can offer under the sustainable infrastructure window to accelerate the transition. But I will head back to Hilda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zita, for presenting the sustainable infrastructure window to us. Let me introduce now Evita Agalianu, Policy Officer for Social Finance at the Directorate General Employment of the European Commission. She and her colleagues are in charge of the social investment and skills window. Evita, over to you.
Hello, good morning. After hearing about the green sustainability dimension, we will now move to the social sustainability dimension and the principle of leaving no man behind in order to ensure a socially just transition. So the social window is the smaller window with 2.8 billion euro in EU guarantee, but still an important one as it is covering the social dimension. I will start by explaining first what is the policy framework, and then I will move on to explain to you what are the main products that we have currently available through the European Investment Bank Group. So starting from the policy framework, the social window is based on the European Pillar of Social Rights. The European Pillar of Social Rights has 20 key principles and rights that are essential for the fair and well-functioning of the labour markets and social protection systems. It is structured within three main chapters. The first one is promoting equal opportunities and access to the labour market. The second one is fair working conditions, and the third one is social protection and inclusion. The action plan of the European Pillar of Social Rights that was adopted last year in 2021 turns these principles and rights into concrete actions, and it introduces three headline targets that need to be reached by 2030, and you can see them in the middle of the slide. The first one is at least 78% of the working age population that has to be in employment by 2030. The second one is at least 60% of all adults that they should be participating in training every year by 2030. And the third one is a reduction of at least 15 million of people in the number of people at risk of poverty and social exclusion. So now within this policy framework and the eligible policy areas of the annex of the InvestEU regulation, we have come down to three main policy areas where the biggest bulk of the investment is expected to go. And these are the three blue boxes in the slide. I will start by the last one, social infrastructure. It follows the successful FC investments in this area. And by social infrastructure, we mean education and training infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure, social infrastructure and services. And here we include also affordable social housing. Sorry. So I will not go into detail into much detail in this policy area first because it will be mainly covered through direct and not intermediated financing, with the exception of the climate and infrastructure funds, the joint product that was mentioned earlier by my colleague, which is between the sustainable infrastructure window and the social window. If, however, you have questions on this policy area, please join us in the Q&A session and I can go back into more details. The second one is microfinance, social enterprises, social impact and innovation policy areas. Here we continue the successful implementation of the FC social impact pilots and of the easy financial instruments of the previous programming period. And the last one is education, training and skills, building on the recent successful FC skills pilot. The EU guarantee will be used in this case to guarantee both debt and equity and quasi-equity products supporting these three policy areas. Next slide, please, because now I will go on into more details on the specific policy areas, starting from the microfinance one. You can see the definition of microfinance that it was recently adapted in this programming period to 50,000 euro to reflect the increased needs of the sector. The policy objective here is to ensure quality employment and social and financial inclusion, especially for the persons in the most vulnerable situations. Microfinance is always linked to the provision of non-financial services, such as business development services, mentoring, coaching, training, etc., as it has been proved that these services are very much important, even more important in some cases than the actual financial support. The second condition that is linked to microfinance, the provision of microfinance, is the condition to sign up or endorse the European Code of Good Conduct for microcredit provision, depending on if we speak about a non-bank or a banking institution, respectively. Next slide, please. Next. Is our support to social enterprises. The definition used for social enterprises is the one explained in the European Social Fund Plus regulation, and it has three distinct dimensions. The first dimension is the social impact dimension. Social enterprises have measurable positive social impact, and here we include also the environmental dimension. This impact is the primary objective, as profit generation comes secondary. Then comes the profit redistribution dimension. Profits are used first and foremost to achieve the social objectives. Third dimension is the governance dimension. Social enterprises are managed in an entrepreneurial, participatory, accountable and transparent manner by involving all stakeholders, workers, customers, etc. The objective here is to support the niche market of social enterprises, as it was announced in the recently adopted Social Economy Action Plan. In terms of ticket sizes, here again, we've increased the ceilings. The focus is still on the smaller tickets of up to 500,000, but we increased the ceiling to 2 million in order to cover also some bigger tickets and reflecting the bigger needs in some cases in this policy area as well. Next slide, please. Moving on now to another innovative policy area. The focus here is on social impact and innovation. How we define social impact. We were frequently asked this question. So we define social impact around the 20 principles of the European Pillar of Social Rights that I mentioned earlier. Within this, with this product, we target what we call impact-driven enterprises. And the main features of impact-driven enterprises are first, that these enterprises pursue social impact, including, again, the environmental dimension, as we did earlier for the social enterprises. And this positive impact comes at par, at an equal footing with the financial return. This is a product very much targeting social innovation, and we also include here the innovative delivery mechanisms and methods, such as the social outcome contracting. And the next slide, please. The next policy dimension is the education, training, and skills. Very significant for the transitions of our economies, and it targets the upskilling and reskilling of people. There are several possibilities, as you can see, in terms of financial beneficiaries under this product. The first one is for individuals, students and learners, people that they would like to finance themselves their studies, and they undertake an eligible educational program. The second one is entities intending to finance the upskilling or reskilling of their employees. The third one is entities, SMEs, small, mid-cap, small public enterprises with a substantial focus of their economic activity in the field of education, training and skills. And the last one is entities providing enabling or coordinating services ancillary to skills and education. And I could give you a practical example here. For example, private companies that provide services linked to, for example, student housing or early childhood education and care, that they may be eligible under this category. So there are a few more issues that I would like to add, and they're not addressed in my slides. The first one is that, as you may hear later from our colleagues from the EAF side, recently the capacity building instrument was launched. So the call for expression of interest for the selection of financial intermediaries was launched on the capacity building instrument. Here we speak about supporting financial providers in the areas of microfinance, social enterprises, skills and education, that they could receive subordinate loans to build their institutional capacity. And the last point that I would like to mention is that in all the above mentioned areas that I explained, so social infrastructure, microfinance, social enterprises, social impact and innovation, as well as education, training and skills, there will be accompanying advisory initiatives supported by the InvestEU Advisory Hub. And these initiatives are expected to cover project advisory, capacity building, market development, as well as awareness raising activities in all these policy areas. And with this, I have finished my presentation. Back to you, Hilda. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Evita, for the very informative presentation. Our next speaker is Astrid Bartels. Astrid is heading the Access to Finance unit at the Commission's Directorate General Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. And she will today introduce us the SME window of InvestEU. Astrid, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Hilda, and good morning again to everyone. So, I will quickly take you through the SME window, I will start with explaining to you the policy context against which we build the products, and then introduce you also to the various products we have set up under the SME window. First slide, please. So when it comes to the policy orientation, the Commission actually published on the 10th of March 2020 the SME strategy for sustainable and digital Europe. And I think that already gives away of what the emphasis of the strategy is, namely on the sustainable and digital transition. In that strategy, you find a dedicated section on access to finance, and there the big headline themes were introduced, such as the digital and green transition, but also other topics like gender smart financing, or the creation of a more integrated European capital market. We've already laid out in the SME strategy that the SME window under InvestEU is going to be the main financing tool to transpose these objectives. The strategy itself was published literally a couple of days before we all went into lockdown due to COVID. So in 2021, the Commission looked at these strategies to see whether an update was warranted. The SME strategy had previously been published as part of the industrial strategy, so in a package. And while the industrial strategy was updated in 2021, it was concluded that with regard to the SME strategy, no need for an update. It was more valid than ever. However, one point that came to the forefront is that due to the COVID crisis, we had seen that a lot of SMEs had taken on debt on their balance sheet through public support programs, very short term. And then there was a need to actually support these companies that had a lot of debt on their balance sheet in order to support them and to improve their solvency, because the balance sheet structure was basically just skewed with way too many debt compared to the equity available and total assets. So that is something we've now also transposed in our product, the solvency support. That's a novelty. Next slide, please. So one of the fundamental things when it comes to SME support, and we always talk about the EIB group being our main implementing partner, while the EIB itself finances companies directly, but very large projects, when it comes to SME financing, it's not the EIB that's in charge, but the subsidiary of the EIB, that's the European Investment Fund in Luxembourg. And it's the European Investment Fund in Luxembourg with whom we have concluded this guarantee agreement. And it's not so that if you're now an SME in Slovakia and you're in need of financing, that you have to call Luxembourg. No, the way the EIF works is on the so-called intermediated model. What does it mean? That financial intermediaries from Slovakia can now apply to public calls for expression of interest, which are published by the EIF. And it's then for the companies in Slovakia, so the SMEs or the small mid-caps, to go to the financial intermediaries in Slovakia that participate in the program so that they obtain the financing. This intermediated model has a lot of advantages. A, is very close to you, the companies. You can contract with them in your local language and also in your local legal environment. Next slide, please. So what are the products that we've negotiated with the EIF? First of all, there's the guarantee product. So where financial intermediaries can basically get counter guarantees so that they can give loans for certain areas. The policy objectives we want to transpose are here for sustainability, innovation, digitalization, for the culture and creative sector, and for SME competitiveness in general. The sustainability guarantee is an absolute novum. We never had that at European level. So here we are looking to counter guarantee loans that then Slovakian financial intermediaries give to SMEs and small mid-caps that really contribute to the green transition. And eligible product or activities are fairly broad. So it can be a renovation project, energy efficient project of an SME. It can be the purchase of electric vehicles or low emission vehicles, can also be leasing transactions for these type of activities. It's a very broad spectrum where we will then alleviate the risk of the financial intermediaries so that they're really encouraged to finance those SMEs even if they do not have sufficient collateral to support these transactions. Then we have the Innovation and Digitalization Guarantee that builds on the successful InnoFin guarantee we had in the previous programming period. Again, there are a list of eligibility criteria, but the real focus is to help SMEs in their innovation, in their digitalization projects, and that can be, changing their processes, changing their service offering, going into cybersecurity, exploring IP rights. So it's very wide. And again, it's addressed to SMEs and small mid-caps. Then we have the culture and creative sector that builds on a previous guarantee program we had under the media program. And as the name gives away, this is really targeted at SMEs and small mid-caps that are active in this particular area. So it can be, small theaters or companies creating culture, products and services. Again, that's also relatively broad. Last but not least, we have the SME competitiveness guarantee. So that's not focused at a specific sector or activity. This is predominantly for financial intermediaries so that they start lending to those companies that they otherwise really wouldn't want to lend to because of the risk profile involved. Here we encourage financial intermediaries, for instance, to finance startups that don't have any collateral or financial track record, or to provide loans with very long durations, which financial intermediaries usually don't like because of the higher risk profile that's then involved. And this is also where we have included the new solvency support. And what is it? It's actually the opportunity for an SME that has taken a lot of debt onto its books during the COVID crisis and has a very thin equity capitalization. So here it's an encouragement for a counter guarantee so that financial intermediaries provide subordinated loans to SMEs with very long durations that helps SMEs to refinance short-term debt into longer-term debt, so that they really have a chance to survive and get out of the COVID crisis. Next slide, please. Then, compared to the debt products that I just introduced, we also have the so-called equity products. So here we've given a mandate to the European Investment Fund to invest into private equity funds, venture capital funds across Europe. What is unique here is that we have combined basically resources from the Research, Innovation, Digitalization window and from the SME window. In total, we're talking about 6 billion euros, also from EIB Group resources, that will be invested until 2027 into funds. When it comes to the investment strategies of the funds that can be supported, you see it here on the slide. So any fund manager who is in the process of fundraising and wants to raise a fund that then subsequently invest into enabling sectors and technologies is in principle eligible for the support. So enabling sectors and technologies, what do we mean here? That's anything in the area of life science and health, space, can be defense technologies, industrial technologies, semiconductor technologies, so in view of the CHIPS Act that the Commission published earlier. Then we have the whole block of climate and environmental solutions, so anything supporting the European Green Deal, that's so funds that want to invest into SME startups active in the area of mobility and transport solutions, energy and built environment solutions, but generally also industrial decarbonization projects, environmental sustainability projects, projects in the area of agriculture and food, natural capital preservation, or the blue economy, or generally any other adaptation solutions. So again, eligibility is quite broad. We're all sort of focusing on those funds that want to pursue investments in the digital and the culture and creative sector. And here we're really thinking about investment into companies that develop AI, artificial intelligence, that are active in the domain of blockchain or distributed ledger technology, so DLT, companies that are active in cybersecurity, in quantum computing, in the culture and creative sector, or education tech, or other digital solutions. And then last but not least, we have the fourth block, which we title Capital Markets Union. This is tied to the policy objective to foster a more integrated European capital market and also to provide alternatives for companies in Europe that have the tendency to very much rely on debt financing. So equity finance is not so prevalent. Here, the EIF will invest into funds at the growth that focus companies at the growth and expansion stage that will invest cross-border. The EIF will also invest under this particular area into funds that then subsequently do not provide equity, but quasi-equity or also senior loans, so that SMEs really have an alternative to their local banks. When it comes to the equity product, we've given horizontal objectives to the EIF, such as gender-smart investments, IPOs, investments in moderate and emerging innovator countries, SCALA and IPOs. So what's behind all of the buzzwords? When it comes to gender-smart investments, what we really want to pursue here is the following. We know from studies that roughly only 1-2% of all of the equity investments flow to companies that are founded by females or run by women, while studies actually show that female-led companies perform quite well and they make for very interesting investment opportunities for funds. So here we've given the EIF a target that 25% of all the funds they invest in under this big pot of money, the 6 billion euros, should actually be funds that in their structure, so the fund management team, the owners of the funds, the senior investment managers, they must have a certain percentage of females in their structures, between 30 and 40%, because we strongly believe if you have women in positions of power in the funds, then also subsequently finance will be provided to female-led companies. Then we have the objective of IPOs, initial public offerings. Here, for the first time ever, we allow the EIF to invest into not only private equity funds and venture funds, but also into those funds that help SMEs to make the bridge to go towards public markets. So these are the so-called crossover funds that help SMEs with the listing, so just before the listing, but also post-listing, because we truly believe that that is the right strategy for companies to be able to access large amounts of capital they need to for exponential growth. Another topic, investments in moderate and emerging innovator countries. Here, Slovakia really fits the bill. We know that very little money is flowing into Central Eastern Europe, into Southern Europe. And again, here we also have a target that at least 20% of all of the investment should really go into this region. Then we have the SCALA. SCALA is meant to address the scale-up gap in Europe. We have an established investment scene in Europe, I would say, but the issue really is that European funds tend to be very small compared to, funds in other regions of the world, and we always compare ourselves to the US. The issue is that when funds are not big enough and the fund manager has a nice portfolio of companies and math, and she has identified the winners in the portfolio, in order to help those companies to grow, if the fund is not big enough in terms of size, at a certain time, the fund manager is forced to sell the portfolio companies so that they can return the money to the investors. And what we see in Europe is that these companies very often are being picked up by foreign investors, Asian, American investors, and some of them also relocate. So this is not our policy objectives. Here we really want to Escala is a mechanism that allows so-called asymmetric risk sharing with private investors. So the private side will put in money, the public side, through our Escala shares, put money into funds. But the trick really is that when it comes to the returns and the funds are being paid back to the investors, first, the public gets reimbursed. So the Escala shares, they get a hurdle rate. But if there's significant upside, that all goes to the private investors. And so we really hope through this new mechanism, which we tested first under the Juncker plan, under EFSI, we really hope that this mechanism enables to bring much more private capital into the area of equity investments. And next slide, please. Very important for you to know is, if you're now a company, you're wondering, where do I find all of these magic financial intermediaries that are participating in the programs? So what we have is a European portal, Access to Finance portal. There you can click on the country for which you want investment, for instance, Slovakia. You can indicate whether you're looking for debt or equity investments. And once you start the search, you will see that a list of all of the financial intermediaries that are participating in European programs. You will see what type of investments they will be making available in terms of loan amounts, in terms of areas they want to support, policy areas, whether it's innovation, general competitiveness. And this really allows you to get a very good overview of all of the financial intermediaries that participate in various European programs. So we're not even only talking InvestEU. Here you also see financial intermediaries from previous Commission programs or from cohesion policy instruments. And with this, I would like to give back to Hilda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Astrid, for the clear and straight to the point presentation on the SME window. Dear participants, I would like to remind you that we have Slido and you have the opportunity to put your questions up. I hope there are some one or two, and we would take them up after the next presentation. So we are coming to the fourth InvestEU window covering investments into research, innovation and digitization. I would like to introduce Katarina Borunska, who works as an investment officer in the European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency. Katarina mainly focuses on the development of financial products and advisory initiatives for innovative companies. Katarina, please.
Good morning. So last but not least, the research, innovation and digitization window. Actually very good that it comes as the last, because I had many issues to connect, but also because the colleagues that spoke before me actually did a lot of job already for me, since they spoke about number of policies that are also important for our window, covering the Green Deal, support to SMEs, but also in the latest presentation, a focus on gender. But before diving into the content of the RID window and what is on offer, I also want to speak a little bit about the policy context. So if we go to the next slide, just to explain why there was actually a need to have a dedicated research, innovation and digitization window. The main reason being is the impact that investments in research and innovation have on Europe's society and on its economy. Investments in R&I are very important when it comes to accelerating the green and digital transition. When we will invest in research and innovation, these investments should help to de-risk, demonstrate, but also deploy the green and digital solutions that we are looking for. Secondly, the investments are also important in strengthening Europe's resilience and crisis preparedness, which was clearly demonstrated throughout the past years during the COVID-19 crisis, where R&I was important for delivering concrete solutions, be it in the form of vaccines, diagnostics or therapeutics, and therefore addressing the health aspects of the pandemic. And last but not least, it's also important when it comes to supporting Europe's global competitiveness. This is demonstrated by the fact that in the last decades, approximately 2/3 of EU productivity growth has been driven by R&I. But what we actually see in practice is that Europe is lagging behind when it comes to R&D investment, and particularly investment by businesses. And you can see that on the graph, which is from 2018, but also the latest data from 2019 show pretty much the same picture. And the reasons for that are many, but key ones could be, among others, and the fact that the costs and uncertainty linked to research and innovation investments are high, and also the fact that it takes a long time to obtain the returns on these investments. So with the 6.6 billion of EU guarantee that we have been allocated under the research, innovation and digitization window, we will seek to facilitate and de-risk access to finance for innovative businesses, but also other actors, and to stimulate the digital transformation of European businesses and markets. If we go to the next slide, I would like to talk a bit more about the policy priorities that we have set for ourselves under the RID window. So the green and digital transition have already been mentioned on several occasions. What we will aim to do is to support investments in products, technologies, solutions, processes, business models, you name it, that deliver environmental and climate benefits. Our goal will also be to support the development and deployment of digital capabilities and technologies in several areas, be it artificial intelligence, high-performance computing, cybersecurity, and others. But beyond this twin transition, we will be also focusing on the health sector, which has been very important in the past years, and it's certainly an EU priority. So both when we are looking at the development of vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics in several areas, be it infectious diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, and others. But we will be also supporting health and care systems across Europe and ensuring their innovation and digitization. And last but not least, as was mentioned also under the other windows, the research, innovation and digitization window will be supporting strategic priorities of the Commission. I'm focusing here on those priorities that are not covered by the previous priorities, so space, defense, key enabling technologies, but we can also be supporting other important value chains. So going to the next slide, we will now talk about what is actually offered under the RIT window in terms of products. So when it comes to the product offer, the majority of funding will be provided under the so-called general debt product provided by the European Investment Bank, who will be the main implementing partner under the RID window. This entails primarily direct funding by the EIB to companies, but also other type of recipients, because essentially the scope of the RID window is very broad. So we are not only targeting standalone promoters and companies like SMEs, small mid-caps and mid-caps, but also address the needs of universities, tech transfer offices, research infrastructures or research centers, and other innovative players. The type of funding that these actors can receive from the EIB usually entails loans, guarantees, or venture debt, which has proved quite successful in the previous financing period. And the EIB usually covers 50% of the total project investment costs. Next to the general debt product, if we go to the next slide, we also have developed thematic products together with the EIB. Once again, here we are building on the experience we have had with thematic products in the past, specifically under the Innofin financial instruments, where we had the Innofin infectious diseases finance product, and the Innofin energy demonstration projects product. So these two products we have developed essentially build on our experience, but also add new areas of support. So when it comes to the innovation investment facility, here we are focusing on projects where the risk is linked to the successful development of a compound, drug, or a medical device and their commercialization, so specifically in the health sector. But we will also be supporting R&D intensive solutions and technologies in the area of strategic digital technologies and key enabling technologies. So you can see the link with health to Innofin infectious disease facility, but let's say expand it also to new sectors. The second product is the Green Transition Investment Facility, where we are joining forces with the Sustainable Infrastructure Window. And here the main focus is on supporting early demonstration projects that are targeting non-mature technologies, business models, or manufacturing processes, but also on projects that entail high-risk deployment, that cover high-risk deployment or first phases of commercial rollout of innovative technologies and services in sectors very much linked to the European Green Deal, so in energy and low carbon solutions, mobility, circular economy, bioeconomy, and others. This is more or less a merge of two previous products, which is the Innofin EDP that I already mentioned, but also Connecting Europe Future Mobility facility from the previous financing period. And why I'm putting such an emphasis on this product is actually that in the past we did have a company finance under Innofin EDP in Slovakia, which was Greenway, and which received a 17 million quasi-equity financing for a rollout of a network of electrical vehicles charging stations throughout Slovakia, but also other countries in Central and Eastern Europe. So going to the next slide, and this is my last slide. So what was explained previously is that InvestEU doesn't cover only funding opportunities, but also advisory initiatives. And here we have worked together with the SME window because many of our beneficiaries are essentially similar, SMEs, small mid-caps. And what we are offering under our initiatives are project advisory support, so directly to companies to prepare their investable business proposals, but also improve their investment readiness, and essentially through this support, hopefully ensure a good pipeline of projects for the InvestEU fund. Since the SME window is also working directly with financial intermediaries, we are also offering capacity building support to strengthen their ability to develop and support finance projects in specific sectors, such as climate and environment. And last but not least, we are also working on a number of gender initiatives. And essentially, this very much links to what was presented previously. So helping both women entrepreneurs and women investors to develop their products and their funds. And with this, I'm very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Katarina, for your presentation. And indeed, we have now a few minutes time to take one or two questions. So maybe we can show again Slido the QR code and have a look on the questions. So I would pick the first one. Good morning. How long would the loan guaranteeing process last? Startups need fast reaction, especially in the situation when their cash flow is at risk. So who wants to take this question very quickly? We really don't have more than 1-2 minutes time.
Okay, I can take that, Hilda. So
thank you.
Since the focus here is really on loan granting, we say for SMEs, we work on an intermediated basis. Once the EIF has concluded a guarantee agreement with a local financial intermediary and said, and they've in principle agreed, for instance, to build a new portfolio of startup loans, it's then really up to the local financial institution to just apply their own processes and procedures. And of course, we hope that due to the partial risk coverage they provide or they get from the EU level, they will rather quickly proceed with granting and not be too difficult in the due diligence process that precedes the provision of the loan. So it's really up to the local financial intermediary. But once they have the go-ahead from the EIF in principle, the financial intermediary doesn't even need to go back to the EIF and ask for specific permission before putting a loan into the new portfolio. So everything should work rather quickly and smoothly.
Thank you so much, Astrid. And I have seen that we have one or two other questions. And these questions we will take up in the Q&A session, which will start at 12:45 because we are running a little bit behind the plan. So, but I promise that no question will be left unanswered. So, thank you very much for to the speakers of the first session. And now, after we learned about the governance and the 4 policy areas of InvestEU, we are turning to the question on how InvestEU will actually be implemented. What are the debt and equity products, our main implementing partner plans, and we will also hear more about the call for expression of interest, which was published 2 months ago. We will highlight UniCredit Slovakia, one of the financial intermediaries active in Slovakia, to give a testimonial how the EU financial instruments have worked on the ground. So first, I would like to introduce our 2 speakers from the European Investment Fund. Nicolas de la Vallée-Poussin is a finance and strategy professional with 20 years of experience covering international corporate development, corporate strategy, finance, and fundraising. In his current role at the EIF, he works on the implementation of financial instruments supporting equity investments under the InvestEU program. Our second EIF speaker is Diana Patrascu, a financial services professional with over 14 years of experience in commercial banking, funding, and capital management, and most recently pan-EU financial instruments management. In her current role at the EIF, Diana has been working on designing and implementing financial instruments dedicated to the debt financing under the new InvestEU program. And our third speaker in this session is Jaroslav Habo, who occupied several positions within UniCredit Bank in the sectors of large corporates and real estate. And since December 2021, Jaroslav serves as a member of the board of directors and as the head of foreign branch UniCredit Bank in Slovakia. So, Nicola, please, the stage is yours.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much. As was just mentioned, I work for the European Investment Fund. I'm going to be presenting the InvestEU program that we're running, the part of the InvestEU program that is dedicated or that has been given to us to manage, and then I will be presenting the equity products before handing over to my colleague Diana to present the rest. So apologies, that was not the slide I was expecting to see first. So the EIF has so the EIS products are split between debt and equity, debt guarantee products and equity products, and there are approximately 11 billion of funds handed to the European Investment Fund to manage. These are complemented by an additional matching element that we provide of about 9 billion. And then these funds are then handed to equity partners and debt partners in a way that seeks to catalyze or draw in additional private financing in order to get as much funding as possible. So our resources are invested alongside the EU funds, and we multiply the power of these investments by supporting venture capital, private equity, or specialist funds as a cornerstone investor, or by enhancing capital access or access to capital for borrowers by providing additional lending capacity through our guarantee products. Our support is primarily for SMEs and mid-caps, and we make sure that our support is available to them through every stage of their life, from seed to growth. The 11 billion InvestEU fund is a platform in a way for additional funds as well. So there are the funds can be increased through specific focused contributions from EU sectorial programs, as well as through contributions by member states to a dedicated compartment. So these additional funds can further increase the support we provide in specific areas, such as, for example, blue economy, media, or space. Next slide, please. So we cover the full range of thematics across both guarantee and equity products, and these thematics are on the slide. My colleague Diana will cover the guarantee products in detail in a few moments. I will cover the equity products now, and those equity products are on the next slide, so we'll jump straight to the next one, please. So each thematic breaks down into a number of target areas, and you see the 5 thematics for our 2 first equity products on the slide. So going through them very briefly, the Capital Markets Union supports investments in debt funds, hybrid equity debt funds, growth and expansion funds. It seeks to provide additional support across the union in financial sort of firepower. Enabling sectors is sectors that, as it says, crucial sectors for independence and autonomous technology. It's things like life sciences, space, defense, industrial technologies, semiconductor technologies, things like that. Climate and environmental solutions, it's focused on funds investing in technologies that can really catalyze the climate transition. So we're looking at VC and PE level investments here. It covers target areas such as mobility and transport, energy, the decarbonization of industry, sustainability, agriculture and food tech, the blue economy, and what we've called other adaptation solutions. And it's highly aligned with the EU Green Deal at the sort of technology venture stage and private equity stage. Digital and cultural and creative sectors is focused on data and communication technologies, services and products that facilitate the digital transition and address societal challenges, as well as support for the cultural and creative sectors. It contains target areas such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cybersecurity, blockchain technologies, otherwise known as distributed ledger technologies, education tech, and other emerging digital technologies, as well as a specific compartment for cultural and creative sectors. The social impact product is sort of a new initiative in many ways for us, and an effort to provide a better financial ecosystem for impact funds. And so we're investing directly into that. Next slide, please. We have a number of transversal goals, and these are not eligibility conditions. They are targets that we have to support development across a number of critical metrics. So funds so typically we invest up to a certain percentage of a fund as a maximum. Typically it's between 7.5 and 25% of a fund is the target investment that we make every time we look at an equity investment in a fund. And we can go beyond that under certain circumstances. We provide additional support where certain criteria are met. And that is one of the ways in which we aim to provide support for these particular cross-product policy goals. The goals are very important to us. We have targets, internal targets on them. As I said, they're not eligibility criteria. Nobody gets penalized for not having them, but we do have this strong focus on providing support in these areas. We actively encourage female representation at fund level, and we provide enhanced financial support to funds that satisfy what we call the gender criteria. This means funds that are female-led, female partners, female founders, funds that have minimum levels of female representation in senior management or on the investment committee. We have a specific focus also and enhanced financial support for funds in countries that are categorized as moderate or emerging innovator countries. And so we support funds that have strategies that target those countries in particular, not exclusively necessarily, but funds that have a focus on those countries. Moderate and emerging innovator countries is a categorization given by the European Innovation Scoreboard, which you can find online. We support scale-ups across Europe through the Escalar program. It allows us to make investments that are in a different class of risk than other investors that are investing alongside us. And therefore, we take a little less risk, but we accept less return. And it allows us to provide additional funds for additional financial firepower to funds that are supporting scale-ups and that have companies that are in their growth phase that require additional support at that point. We have a specific product also supporting IPOs, and we are very focused on providing that support to funds that invest in SMEs that are pre-IPO, at IPO, or post-IPO in the period immediately after an IPO, in order to help them make that transition. So we're talking about crossover funds. We're talking about funds in the later stages of SMEs. Next slide, please. Climate and infrastructure funds. This will be my last slide. Climate and infrastructure funds is a separate product. It has a separate application pathway on the website, on the EIF website. And it's a very important, in terms of its volume and its the attention that we've given to it and its visibility on our site. It's a very important project for us. It's worth making the difference between the climate and infrastructure funds product and the climate and environmental solutions sub-product under the previous products that I was showing you. Whereas the former target areas are focused on venture capital and private equity funds investing in SMEs that are developing new climate tech, possibly for catalyzing the climate transition and providing novel solutions to climate challenges. This is for larger capital investments in infrastructure and climate, and you can see the areas that are focused on the right, the clean energy transition, so hybrids and renewables, the storage solutions for battery technologies, infrastructure projects in that vein, sustainable transport, so infrastructure projects, smart mobility, and then under environment and resources, sort of natural capital, the connectivity and data infrastructure, so projects that require greater funding, greater commitments, and so larger ticket sizes. So with that, I will be in the Q&A this afternoon. I think it's room 3, where I'm happy to take any questions, including one question that's already been asked. I will be answering it there. And I will hand over to my colleague, Diana, for the guarantee products.
Thanks a lot, Nicolas. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And now for a deep dive in the EIF's portfolio guarantee products under InvestEU. Under InvestEU, the EIF has available 6 thematic products. Most of them are a continuation of the previous MFF guarantee products, starting from the SME competitiveness, which is focused on SMEs. It boosts access to finance for higher risk SMEs. It provides for improved conditions for debt financing, such as increase of maturities or reduced collateral. It also aids to help new types of financing, such as startup financing or subordinated loans. And there's also a new entry under a new feature under the SME competitiveness with regards to the solvency support instrument. This instrument will provide solvency and recapitalization support for SMEs that were affected by the COVID pandemic. The second product, again a continuation from the previous MFF, is the innovation and digitalization product. This is dedicated to innovation through improved product services or intellectual property. Also, it helps fast-growing enterprises and research and investment intensive enterprises. The digitalization guarantee, which is again under the innovation and digitalization guarantee product, it helps the digitalization of enterprises in their business models, in their supply chain management, customer relationship management, cybersecurity, or training in digital. The next product, the cultural and creative sector guarantee, again a continuation from the previous MFF, and it aims to support debt financing in audiovisual, multimedia, visual arts, architecture, performing arts. Then I'll skip to the 2 that are still continuation, meaning the microfinance and social guarantee, which is dedicated to support access to financing for sustainable employment and social inclusion, and social enterprises to support the active labor market and job creation. And then the skills and education guarantee, which is dedicated to support the access to financing for students, learners, enterprising, investing in services in education. Last but certainly not least, I will talk about the EIF's brand new product, which is the Sustainability Guarantee. It is dedicated to improve access to financing for sustainable enterprises, as well as green investment and enhancing accessibility for contributing to Europe's green and sustainable transition. The eligibility criteria here were designed in the spirit of the EU taxonomy, but also adapted to the specific needs of the target final recipients. And here we base the eligibility criteria on the taxonomy pillars, looking at climate change mitigation and adaptation, transition to circular economy, water resources and pollution, protection and restoration of biodiversity, and sustainable forest and agricultural practices. Of course, the social part, the social accessibility investment. Next slide, please. Under InvestEU, the EIF will offer two types of guarantees. It will be the capped guarantee and the uncapped guarantee. The novelty, the big novelty under InvestEU is that financial intermediaries can apply in one go for several products, and then they can elect whether subject to the product, whether they want a capped or an uncapped guarantee. The capped guarantee is a guarantee that covers losses incurred by financial intermediaries, subject to a guarantee rate and up to a certain maximum amount, the cap amount. In the case of the uncapped portfolio guarantees, the guarantee will cover all losses subject to the guarantee rate. You will see here on this slide, we try to do a comparison across the products. So basically, the capped guarantee is available for almost all products with very few, let's say, very few exceptions. On the uncapped side, we have the SME competitiveness, the sustainability guarantee, innovation and digitalization, and cultural and creative. When it comes to the maximum guarantee rates, this ranges from 50% in the case of SME competitiveness, except for the solvency support instrument, where we can go up to 70%. And then generally, we will offer a maximum 70% guarantee rate. However, in some cases, we have the possibility to go up to maximum 80%. Another novelty under InvestEU is that this time EIF will charge a guarantee fee for all products except for the social one, so for micro and social and skills and education. The guarantee fee is 20 basis points for the capped guarantee and 70 basis points for the uncapped, except in the case of subordinated debt, where the guarantee fee will be 120 basis points. Next slide, please. Here you will see that we have a very diverse target final recipient base. This is based on the type of product. So we go from SMEs, which are present in almost all the products, up to natural persons, small, mid caps, public small enterprises, micro and social enterprises. I'll stop here a bit on the minimum maturity. Generally, the minimum maturity for debt financing under InvestEU guarantee products is 1 year, 12 months. With two exceptions, we will have a minimum of 3 years for the solvency support instrument and 3 months for the micro and social entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. Yes, here we have an indication of the overall available financing for financial intermediaries. On the guarantee side, the biggest allocation is to the sustainability guarantee, followed by the innovation and digitalization and the SME competitiveness. Worth mentioning that under InvestEU, EIF will also provide additional support through technical assistance or capacity building via the EIB advisory hub. Next slide, please. EIF already launched the expression of interest for both the guarantee and equity products this April. We are starting to receive application, and we of course encourage interested potential financial intermediaries to access our website in order to see the product offer in detail in the term sheet, and also the requirements that the financial intermediaries need to comply with in order to apply. You will see we have a dedicated website for the call for expression of interest. Additionally, together with our colleagues in marketing, we developed a website, a very visual and easy to understand website on the feature of the products. There we explain for each and every product what are the features. So not so technical, let's say, like in the case of the term sheets. But of course, if you are interested to apply, the EIF.org website is where you can see there's a dedicated call for expression of interest for the guarantee products, of course, also for the equity ones, and you have. You will see there's the horizontal term sheets where you could see the general requirements across all products, and then the thematic term sheets where each and every thematic product is described, so their particularities are described. I think that's it from my side. I guess, Hilda, we can either, we have the session, as my colleagues were saying, and also, I guess, Hilda, you were saying we have a Q&A session at 12:45, I think, right? Where we will have different rooms, so for financial intermediary or people who are interested in the debt products or the equity ones, and we are happy to answer there any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Indeed, and we will also be able to take maybe one or two short questions at the end of this session. And now we can just straight away give the floor to Jaroslav.
Thank you very much. So good morning to all again. My name is Jaroslav Habo. I'm responsible here in Slovakia for UniCredit operations in the country. I will give you a couple of, let's say, sentences, remarks, and maybe key messages rather than the full and long presentation. But however, we could start with the slides now. Perfect. So probably you know, as a UniCredit group, we are one of the largest groups in the Europe in terms of the financing of the corporates and companies. We are basically on a second, third position in lending in the Europe, and I'm very happy and proud to say that also in Slovakia our position is relatively strong and solid, and we belong in between the 5 biggest banking players. In corporate finance, our portfolio represents something like our market share in corporate lending is something like 15% on the market. So we are important player on the market. How we see our, let's say, position here in this country and in the Europe is that first of all we are pan-European bank, and we want to also benefit from all of the, let's say, European. Western European, let's say, products and experiences, and also to bridge it to Slovakia, which is still a relatively country in Eastern Europe and developing, let's say, quickly. Also in these guarantee programs, after the COVID came, suddenly to our lives, and we was happy to have, let's say, both access to the local, let's say, supportive schemes designed by the local government from the local budget and local state institutions, and also to have the access to these European programs covered by European Investment Fund, EGF, EIB, and so on. Even at the beginning, I could tell you that it might be counterintuitive to you, but I have to say these European programs are better prepared and better fitted for utilization in Slovakia than the local ones, because the local program was, I would say, overdone in the conditions and the restrictions. You could imagine that in Eastern Europe we had history of misuse of the public money. So therefore, there is a tendency to overdone and overcomplicate the conditions. And I could tell you that the European programs was easier to use for us than the local programs. Let me go to the second slide of the presentation. Currently, we have open, let's say, and we are participating mainly in these three programs, European programs, let's say, or the programs governed by European institutions. First, as you can see, is this Innofin Horizon for the companies with to support innovation, digitalization process. This program is the mostly used in the country by our bank, and as you could see, we provided the highest volume of the number of the loans and also the amount of the loans within past, let's say, a couple of years, because that was I think the best established program and prepared to support the innovative companies. Then lately, we let's say a year ago, we started the EGF by EIF program, European Investment Fund program, to support SMEs. It was very important for us to, maybe the size is not too big to you if you see 25 million euro, but it was a number of the smaller clients being quickly supported by this program. And it was very important for us that it was, let's say, prepared easier and much quicker than the local programs. And I here would also underline and give it as a sort of the inspiration to the let's say local authorities to also double check the European programs and try to somehow make also the local programs as swift and as easy to use than the EU programs. The last program, or the third program, is the EGF by European Investment Bank. We after, let's say, some time of the COVID, we've seen that most of the programs local programs was supporting the small SMEs, but it was basically none of the guarantee schemes usable for the bigger companies, for companies having more than 250 employees, for the companies which was also hit by the COVID crisis. And I'm very happy that we had the possibility that we have this umbrella agreement between the EIB and UniCredit for a couple of countries, and therefore been quite able to quite easily and quickly start a program also in Slovakia. Even these days we have clients not only in the pipeline. I just disconnected from the credit committee when we have under the approval a couple of loans which will be covered by this guarantee scheme. There it was only 50% of the, let's say, risk sharing with very reasonable fees for these larger companies, but it's very important that we are able to use it, and we could use it also to support clients, not only, let's say, investing and doing the business in Slovakia, but also in the surrounding countries if they are participating in this EGF scheme. It is important that it has this European, let's say, angle. And please, if we could go to the last page of the presentation. It's brief, but here I would try to summarize some, let's say, benefits for banks and clients and key challenges, and maybe focus what we would need to solve pretty quickly in upcoming weeks and months. You know, I will give you first of all the let's say view, my point of view when you would be the manager responsible for the bank portfolio, and you are in the, let's say, at the beginning of the crisis, which you do not know how deep it will be and how long it will last, like the COVID, or even now. I would just underline that Slovakia is the neighboring country of Ukraine, so we really feel not only the many refugees, and because it's really close to our border. But also I have to say that almost 50% of the energy in Slovakia sources are coming from Russia, and we are strongly dependent on the Russian natural gas, oil, and even uranium, which is the fuel for the nuclear power plant. So it's these days for Slovakia, I think this is the key challenge. But I will go to that as a key challenges. So once we manage the portfolio of the bank exposure, you could imagine that in such situations, the ratings of the clients, SME clients, and even bigger clients are falling down. So probability of defaults is increasing. Our, let's say, capital consumption is getting hit. And in such a situation, if you are responsible for management of the bank portfolios, you simply should reduce the exposure to the clients, which are more risky. And you should have you should increase the granularity of the portfolio. Of course, this is precisely opposite what the clients needs, because in a more difficult the situation that the small clients are, the more money they would need, the stronger support from the bank they would need. But then we have this, let's say, contra let's say interest. Client is more risky and would need more money, more support from the bank, and bank must be responsible for the capital and for the risk management and for risk concentration, and should get portfolio more concentrated. And therefore, it's very important that we have these guarantee schemes, what I see rather as risk-sharing instruments. Then this is helping us, because you could imagine for SMEs, in such situation, you will not find a different bank for risk sharing, for something like syndication or risk participation. Commercial banks, definitely not. Therefore, these programs are giving us the hand to still support clients as one of the largest European banks on the market, as one of the largest local corporate bank on the market. We have to support the clients, otherwise they will not be able to survive. And you are helping us balancing our, let's say, risk portfolio approach and the needs of the clients. I think this is the benefits for both of the sides. Therefore, the clients then they have really access not only to the new financing but also to the continuity of the financing, and of course they don't have more collateral which we would require, because the probability and rating of probability of default and ratings are falling, and probability of default are increasing. What I mentioned to you, key challenges. From organization point of view, of course, when the new partner is coming to the game, we need to establish the frame contract, individual contract conditions. We had to set up new internal department for the support programs, and first of all, negotiate and agree, let's say, guarantee schemes with you, get implemented in the bank processes, approval processes, instructions, and train the network, and then to communicate it to the client, prepare the individual suggestions for the approval, and went through the approval process of the bank, which is quite a long process, and it's of course more organizationally, let's say, complex, because we have another partner in the relationship, legal, financial. We need to share everything, collateral, risk, manage the ranking of the loans and everything. And what is the real organizational challenge is that once we prepare the schemes and we have a full implementation for anti-COVID, let's say, programs, situation changed completely. These days in Slovakia, I don't see COVID as something which would be the major topic, even neither in the newspapers, neither in the talks with the clients. Mainly now we have something which is related to the Ukrainian, let's say, Russian-Ukrainian crisis. In our region, in our country, you could easily call it as an energy crisis and material crisis, which is very tough for our clients, because you could imagine then the structure of the economy in Slovakia is not predominantly based on the services like in the US and maybe in the really highly developed countries. We have still companies which are highly energy intensive, material intensive. But what I'm happy to say that if so far all these, let's say, ESG requirements and environmental requirements was rather based on something like like that you need to be good member of the community and you need to be social, you need to be responsible, you need to be green. Now it gets even financial incentives in a sense because the energy is expensive. So all of the ESG and green and environmental, let's say, requirements are, let's say, getting very strong financial incentives to be done because they will be repaid quickly. However, local companies are relatively weak, and you could imagine the position of the companies is, if you have a company in Slovakia, it's a relatively small company because it was born in a small local market and local country. We live in the European Union when the markets are opened and you are in a competition with the really big regional players. And the smaller the company is, the longer it takes to transform the increased energy and material prices to the output prices of the let's say off-takers. And if the small company having, let's say, not so robust equity because not having long history, I think this is the critical importance of the many local companies in Slovakia. They need to get a hand from the bank because, okay, we are the partner, but we are just a bank. We are just a bank and we cannot substitute other, let's say, things. Therefore, I think we need to prepare quickly derivative, let's say, programs from not now concentrated on COVID, but rather concentrated. It could be easily called or under the umbrella of ESG, environment protection, green, but it needs to be somehow prepared for the quick help to the companies, which that they need to finance this transition period when they will also, some of them need to make investments to the more, let's say, greener production process and whole of the process in the company. But some of them they will, and most of them they need also sort of the bridge financing to overcome the situation because the energy prices jump up immediately, and they are even if they successfully renegotiated the output contracts with the off-takers, they are hit heavily, and they, let's say, working capital is drawn now. I think those are the main messages from my side. I would be happy to hear also a couple of questions from your side if you are interested. Unfortunately, I will not be able to join the Q&A session in the afternoon, so maybe now is the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaroslav, and also to Diana and Nicolas for sharing with us many hands-on information, especially the local information from Slovakia. I found very interesting. And now I'm looking at Slido, and there is because 2 more minutes left, so we could take. Maybe I will just pick the first question on the top. And probably, Nicola, this is a question for you. Is any of the instruments suitable for venture capital funds who invest in climate tech and green tech companies as co-financing or funds of funds?
Yes, absolutely. So under our equity product, we have climate and environmental solutions as a specific sub-product or thematic strategy, as you'll see it called on our website. And that contains target areas specifically focused on exactly those areas. Now, how does such an investment occur? What are the conditions attached to it? That's a longer discussion. I'm happy to go into it in the Q&A, but suffice it to say that yes, there is absolutely a pocket of money here dedicated to exactly that thematic. So yes, you will find support from the EIF, other conditions notwithstanding, for that investment strategy.
Thank you so much. And then let's take, there's another a short question. How can a private fund to be qualified to be an implementing partner?
Okay, I'll take that one as well, but it's a semantics question, really. What do you mean by implementing partner? The way we use the word implementing partner, the European Investment Fund is an implementing partner, or the European Investment Bank Group is an implementing partner of InvestEU. So if that's the way you meant it, like how can you take on the same role as we have vis-a-vis the Commission under InvestEU? That's a question you need to ask the Commission. There is a process. It's a heavy process. It's for large financial institutions. Typically national financial institutions. If your question, and I'm assuming this is what you meant, was how do we become a financial intermediary of the European Investment Fund under InvestEU, then there is an application process to go through on our website where you provide us with your pitch deck and a large amount of information, but it's a very guided process. It's very easy to understand. And then there are a number of documents you need to read and understand there. And there are people here and in the advisory hub capable of helping you through that process and making sure that you're ready. So it's a question of which of those two is it. It would be unlikely that a fund, unless it's absolutely huge, would want to be an implementing partner, and it would need to be a fund of funds, would want to be an implementing partner of the InvestEU program as a whole, but it is theoretically possible. But I'm not sure which of the two questions was actually intended there.
Thank you so much, Nicola. I think that was rather the second one, but in any case, if there are more doubts, please join us at 12:45 to the breakout room. This is the room 3 on the equity products, and you can discuss it further with Nicola. Thank you very much again for all the questions and your answers, and for the excellent presentations to Diana, Nicola, and Jaroslav. And I hope you found the first part of our event informative and interesting. You deserve now a short comfort break before we present to you the European Innovation Council and the Single Market Programme. But please do not go too far away, as during the break we will screen some very interesting case studies about companies which were financially supported by the previous EU financial instruments. Thank you so much so far, and see you all back here at 11:15. Thank you.
What do you see? A little spark slowly growing bigger, lighting up the dark. Imagine what it could be. What do you see? A robot that feels sustainable fiber, or software that captures the world in 3D. Wooden wind turbines, transparent solar panels, reinventing the way we use our energy. A tiny idea, so crazy it's hard to believe. An invention with the intention to change the world drastically. It's something we would love to see. So, tell us what you need to reimagine, to reinvent the world. We can give you a place where unicorns are born. You can change your dreams, helping hands, machinery, bigger plans, or just a chance to show the world something they haven't seen. So, what do you see?
I'm Silvia Fluch. I'm a biologist from Ecoduna, an Austrian microalgae producing company. Ecoduna started as a very interesting project. The two founders were convinced that microalgae in future could provide biofuel to mankind. The European project was €2 million, where co-funding had to be found in the region here. Just a year ago, we started to build the big plant. As you can imagine, with a technology like this, where everything needs to be newly established, it was not so easy to find partners. And here again, the European Commission helped us to bring €18 million to the green life of Ecoduna. Now we are here in a 1-hectare plant and will be able to produce 100 tons of dry biomass per year. So what my advice then would be to SMEs, be brave and step forward with bigger amounts, and don't limit yourself by having not enough financing.
Whenever you have a new idea, one of the biggest hurdles is to convince other people that it actually is a good idea.
For a startup company, it's very hard to get a financing.
Without the EU financial guarantee, we are dead. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's totally 100% right.
Without it, we would have had a hard time getting this product on the street.
We are the first company in the Czech Republic that bank ever supported as a startup company.
It's not like a shoemaker. He can do shoes maybe for 100 years the same way. Not in our world. Innovation is the one driving force.
When you live in a country that there's a recession going on, it will impact you. It is going to be difficult, but if you love what you do, you will overcome it. Kalamata, Greece, is the heart of the Kalamata olive. It's a product that only Greece produces. In this area, 70% of the population are working with olives. What Money Foods does is we process the Kalamata olives and green olives, and we package them and export them. A good quality olive lies in how the owner takes care of his land. He waters them, he prunes them. Of course, nature has something to do with all this, but it's all about him. We see the crop, see the olives. If they're good for us, then we arrange to come and pick them up. Then it goes in for sorting, and we start fermenting them. Then they come in for processing and then packaging. Most of our business is hand-picked. We need a lot of labor. Because of the recession, people lost their jobs. The other day, a young man came to the office with a degree in math asking for a job. Then I thought he needed an office job. I told him, I really don't have any office work for you. He goes, I don't need office work. I need labor. I just can't find any job. People did not have the money to cultivate even their land. Our suppliers started asking for cash up front. So we had problems as to how to buy our olives, how to expand our factory because we need new machinery because of new business. We did apply for a loan to the bank, but if it wasn't for the EU support, we would not be able to get the loan. We couldn't do it without it. We moved forward with our new business plans. We doubled our staff. We have 50 people. We created 3 new production lines.
At least we have the umbrella of the EU helping us and supporting the business that really need to. Business that have devoted their lives to. That's what my mom has done. Her employees are her family. It's part of her. You cannot separate those two. The future for Money Food is bigger expansions, more business, and new products. And all that means more jobs, more benefits for Kalamata.
Culture essentially is a catalyst that triggers a variety of positive effects in the society, like innovation, free self-expression, jobs, and purpose. But culture is definitely also a glue for different social groups to meet, interact, and have a common purpose. In the bigger scheme of things, our vision is to use culture in service of the society. I'm Helen Sildna, the Director of Shiftworks in Tallinn, Estonia. Shiftworks essentially is using creative tools and clever curation to bring positive impact in the society. And we do that mainly through the 2 festivals that we promote, Tallinn Music Week and Station Narva, but also other cultural events, productions and communication projects. In a way, our festivals are like a way to show a spotlight onto what is happening in the society. Tallinn Music Week, of course, is the biggest venture that we do in our company that takes 70% of our annual budget. And there are months when we do need bridge funding to be able to balance out the financial obligations throughout the years. So essentially what was really needed by us and what thankfully is now available due to European support measures is exactly that type of bridge funding. Unfortunately, it is not easy to get a regular loan from a bank. We wouldn't be a very attractive candidate or a client because in their eye, we lack assets in its traditional sense. We don't own property, we don't have financial assets like this. And in general, I think our sector needs to be better in describing the value that we create in the society. In the end, this EU support gives us the opportunity to have peace of mind and actually do what we do the best.
Dear participants, after the short break, welcome back to the EU Finance Day Slovakia. We have now two more interesting topics to cover, namely the European Innovation Council and the Single Market Programme, together with the Enterprise Europe Network. First, in the next 45 minutes, we are going to focus on the European Innovation Council. It is a flagship instrument which is already up and running under Horizon Europe, the current EU research framework program. The EIC supports game-changing innovations with direct equity investments from early stage to scale up with a budget of more than 10 billion euros. I'm very pleased to introduce our two speakers. Lucia Morgante is Investment Manager and Project Advisor for the European Innovation Council Fund, and she will present to you the EIC Fund with a focus on the EIC Accelerator. And I would like to welcome very warmly Eva Kovachova, the CEO of Glycanostics, an EIC Accelerator beneficiary. Glycanostics is an innovative biotech startup that develops highly accurate, early stage and unique diagnostic tests for 11 different types of cancer. So, Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hilda, for having me here today. Thank you for the presentation, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here to present the European Innovation Council and to share this panel together with Eva, because we can therefore give you a joint view on an internal point of view and the point of view of beneficiary, namely one of the first Horizon Europe beneficiary of the EIC Accelerator. We can start with the slides, please. Yes, thanks. I will start with an helicopter overview of the European Innovation Council. I will address this EIC, and the European Innovation Council is a 10 billion euro program aiming at identifying, develop and scale up breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovation in Europe. The European Innovation Council, the EAC, is providing our beneficiaries with a new unique combination with including a DARPA approach for visionary research on future technologies with an accelerator to scale up innovative startups and SMEs. Furthermore, the EAC is imposing itself in Europe as the largest deep tech investor thanks to the EAC fund. The fund is managing now a budget of 3 billion, and it aims at crowding in other investors. We will see it in detail at a later stage today. The EAC wants to create a pioneering communities of researchers and innovators in Europe. This will indeed jointly shape the future of Europe. How to do so? Enhancing the European innovation ecosystem. We want to enhance the European innovation ecosystem through partnership with other entities like the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, the ERC, European Research Council, together with other national and regional agencies and ecosystem builders. Next slide, please. Here we can see, here we can see how the EAC is positioned under Horizon Europe. We started in 2018, and after 3 years pilot phase in March 2021, the fully fledged European Innovation Council was launched as part of Horizon Europe program. It involved as well the creation of a new Brussels-based executive agency, the European Innovation Council, and SME agency called EISMEA. We can see here how Horizon Europe is channeling its funding schemes through 3 different pillars to indeed finance research and innovation in Europe. We see the first pillar mainly dedicated to research that create new knowledge. The second pillar more targeting the transnational collaboration, and the third pillar including the European Innovation Council that focuses on cutting-edge research as a basis for new technologies and innovation. As of March 2021, the European Innovation Council already published 2 work programs. In the work program, we include the activities and the budget and the dedicated budget for each year. We published the second work program for 2022 in February last year. Next slide, please. Here we start going through the main features of the EAC. The EAC is an instrument open to support innovators in any field from anywhere in Europe and associated countries. It offers, it provides a particular focus on deep tech and disruptive innovation, aiming at attracting more female innovators and talent from less innovative regions. This is mainly a bottom-up instrument. This means that the majority of funding will be awarded through open calls. The open calls are those calls with no predefined thematic priorities, EAC open funding, which is designed to enable support for any technologies and innovation that cut across different scientific, technological and application fields. While we have thematic areas as well, called EAC challenges, and the challenge-driven approach provides funding to address specific technological and innovation breakthroughs. These challenges take into account EU priorities for transitioning to a green, digital and healthy society. Furthermore, we know that money is important, but it's not sufficient. This is why, together with the direct financial support, we also provide our beneficiaries with an access to a range of business acceleration services. These services consist in access to mentoring, coaching, access to investors. We also, under Horizon Europe, we also included a new way of managing our project thanks to the proactive management. Indeed, through our program managers team, we provided tailor-made follow-up of the project. we just spoke about the work programs, and I want also to highlight that we are advised, the EC is advised by an impressive board appointed in November 21, which help us to define the most relevant strategies, providing us with a vision taking into account all the evolution in the innovation ecosystem. And this is implemented, all this part of work from the EAC board is implemented in our work program. Next slide, please. All these characteristics we just saw are shared by these three instruments we can see here, because these three main instruments can show you how the EAC is organized. The EAC is providing agile support across indeed the full spectrum of innovation, from early stage research to scale up of innovative SMEs. Indeed, the funding support is organized in these three main schemes: the Pathfinder, for advanced research to develop the scientific basis to underpin breakthrough technologies. Then we have this Bridge program, the Transition, to validate technologies and develop business plans for specific applications. And the third program is the Accelerator. The Accelerator aiming at support companies to bring their innovation to the market and scale up. Why I've just mentioned that we cover the full spectrum of innovation, because as you can see here, all the three funding schemes cover the full spectrum of the technology readiness level. We have the Pathfinder covering the technology readiness level from 1 to 4, providing financing support thanks to grants up to 3-4 million euros. Then we have the Transition that covers another portion of the TRL from 3 to 6, and the financial support is channeled through grant as well of up to 0.5 million euros. And then the Accelerator. The Accelerator covers the TRL from 6 to 9, providing a unique funding support that combines grants and equity. Next slide, please. Let's have now a focus on the EAC Accelerator. We can see here the budget. The dedicated budget is the bigger envelope in the EAC budget is dedicated to the Accelerator. We have a portion of budget, as just mentioned, for the open calls, because this is a mainly bottom-up instrument. Therefore, we channel the majority of our budget through the open calls, but we also have our challenges for this year, and the challenges for the European Innovation Council Accelerator are two. The first one is the technologies for open and strategic autonomy, and the second is Fit for 55. The first one is a challenge aiming at significantly reduce the European dependency on other regions for deep tech innovation and services of key strategic interest, and also strengthening the European competitiveness and security and open strategic autonomy. The second one, the Fit for 55, is linked to the package of proposal to make adopted by the European Commission to make the EU's climate and energies and land use and transport fit for reducing the greenhouse emission by at least 55% by 2030. We also can see that we have a strong continuity of the main calls. This means that under Horizon Europe, we are, and this second work program, we continue to have this approach where the interested companies can apply anytime during the year. And we have 3 cutoff dates. The next one is in October. We have these 3 cutoff dates where we collect the successful proposal, and we invite these companies to an interview step. I will be happy to go into more details of the application and evaluation process afterwards, so I will invite you to join us in the breakout session dedicated to Q&A, and I will be happy to provide you with more details. Next slide, please. Now, I want to go deeper into the EAC accelerator, which is there to fill a persistent and critical financing gap in Europe technology transfer market. Indeed, despite the channeling of significant amounts of grant funding to research and innovation projects in Europe by EU schemes and national financial schemes, very few operations manage to attract patient and private investments and then reach the commercialization and scale-up stages. This is why the EAC Accelerator has been created, aiming at bridging this market failure, also known as Valley of Death of European innovation, which significantly indeed affects growth and jobs in Europe compared to its main competitors. And the EAC Accelerator targets potential market creating innovation presenting too high level of risk for traditional public and private investors. So we are there to de-risk this investment, whether based on breakthrough technology originating from research, deep tech, or disruptive thinking, and also impactful incremental and social innovation. Who can apply? Our beneficiaries are innovators, startups, and SMEs, and under certain conditions also small and mid caps that want to bring their innovation to the market. Next slide, please. Here we can see how the EAC Accelerator is providing its support. We already mentioned the EAC blended finance, this mix of grant and investment. And we also have grant only and grant first option. And here maybe we can go to the next slides to see in more details these schemes where we have the grant and investments. The blended finance is aiming to cover with the grant channel the innovation activities, those activities that covers TRL from 5 to 6 till 8. And with the investment part, which consists in equity or quasi-equity, such as convertible loan agreements, we want to cover the commercialization stage. So we want to cover those activities that aims to bring the product to the market and covers the TRL from 8 to 9. We also have a grant first option. This is where your innovation is based on novel technology, scientific discovery, but still require a significant work to validate and demonstrate in relevant environments in order to assess properly its commercial potential. And these innovations are financed thanks to a grant first and are also eligible for a follow-on equity component subject to milestones assessment. You have indeed to include the milestones that attest that these innovation activities are well underway and the innovation has indeed potential for deployment. Then we have the grant-only option, where we want to finance the innovation activities only, but the applicants must provide evidence to have sufficient financial means, like revenue flows, existing investors, shareholders, to finance the deployment and the scale-up of the innovation. This is why we do not want. This is because we do not want to finance the innovation activities and get the innovation stacked before the commercialization and scale-up phase. We also have a fourth option, investment only. This option is mainly open to mid caps, but we reserve this investment only to those companies, those beneficiaries that already have been awarded with a grant financing in the past, or in the past also with the predecessor schemes of the EAC. Next slide, please. Here we can see a bit more in detail how the blended finance works. Let me just highlight in this case that in the grant component, which is up to 2.5 million, our applicants should cover the eligible costs for the 30%, because we reimburse up to a maximum of 70%. The project linked, that part of the project linked to the innovation activities must be completed in 24 months, and as concerned the investment components that covers the commercialization stage of the products can be financed from 0.5 million euros to a maximum of 15 million. The investment part is implemented thanks to the European Innovation Council Fund that aims to have a minority ownership of maximum 25%, and this financial vehicle is there to provide patient capital with an average perspective of 7-10 years with a maximum of 15 years. Next slide, please. Here we can see a bit more in detail the EAC fund, and the EAC fund is a venture capital fund, actually the biggest deep tech investor in Europe, and the European Commission is the only shareholders. This is a public limited liability company under Luxembourgish law in the form of reserved alternative investment fund. We already mentioned that the mission of the EAC fund is not to exclude the private investors, on the contrary, to crowd in private investors, and we want to indeed co-invest with the private sector. The European Investment Bank works with us, and it's our advisor, here to I would be happy to also to give you more detail on the investment process and how it works, the investment process. So I will be happy again to share more information during the Q&A session. I will stop here because I think I handed up my time, and over to you, Eva. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Diagnostics, a company based in Slovakia that has a sweet spot for diagnostics. So my name is Eva Kovačová, and I'm the CEO of the company. At the beginning, we had a dream to create a world where cancer will be diagnosed early and therefore created successfully. Next slide, please. This dream started more than 10 years ago in the heads of two exceptional scientists from Slovakia, Jan Tkáč and Tomáš Bertok, whom you can see on the pictures. They met at the Institute of Chemistry, Slovak Academy of Sciences, where Tomáš was one of the most talented students of Jan. Jan brought his multiple years of experience from his stays at the universities in Sweden as well as in Oxford, and returned to Slovakia to build his scientific team. Together with Tomáš, they worked on research of glycans, which means complex saccharides, which was at the beginning of our sweet spot for diagnostics. They invented a breakthrough technology that is capable to analyze changes of glycans caused by cancer cells. In 2017, they founded Glyconostics, a company that is focused on early stage diagnostics of 11 types of cancer from blood. Next slide, please. So at the beginning, there were 2 exceptional scientists with many scientific and startup awards. They started discussions with investors and search for the CEO. At that time, I was still pretty busy with creating a joint venture between GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer for the entire EMEA region. In October 2020, when I finished this integration, I was looking for a new project. And I read an interview with Tomáš, contacted him, and in 2 months, I became CEO and shareholder of Glycanostics. As Tomáš puts it in really nice chemical terms, they were 2 reagents that worked pretty well together, and they needed a catalyst. From the very first day, the chemistry worked between us, and as you will see, the more energy you invest into bond, the harder it is to break. Next slide, please. So what was our journey from R&D to commercialization? The first product that we started to work on was prostate cancer diagnostic test. We are extremely thankful for all the support that we received during this journey. In 2018, we received ERC grant for the preclinical validation, followed by SME Instrument 1 covering feasibility study. In 2021, we received grant from Slovak Research and Development Agency and started to work full speed on securing investor and applying for EIC Accelerator to finalize our prostate cancer test. In May 2021, we signed investment agreement with Crowdberry Growth 1, followed by raising additional money from small investors via crowdfunding platform managed again by Crowdberry. And later in 2021, we received Seal of Excellence and the EIC Transition Scheme to finance the development of diagnostic tests for breast, lung, and pancreatic cancer. Next slide, please. Trust from our investors and grants from the Horizon scheme immediately accelerated our work. On December 1st, 2021, we opened our new fully equipped laboratory and office and welcomed our new highly talented team members. Next slide, please. So you can ask me now, where are the results? As I already mentioned, our first product will be prostate cancer diagnostic test. In 2021, we worked on developing our unique protein standard, which is key element of our test, followed by collecting blood samples from various countries. We started clinical validation this year on more than 500 samples in order to be able to apply for CE mark, which is the main regulatory requirement. Our main strategy is to out-license our test to a multinational pharmaceutical or diagnostic company to assure that the test will be available to patients worldwide as early as in 2023. Next slide, please. So how does it work? And this is a nice video. I think you need to click once again.
Welcome to the Glycanostics breakthrough technology. Glycanostics is an innovative startup company which has developed an early-stage, highly accurate and unique cancer diagnostic test. Our patented technology for screening cancers detects changes in a glycan attached to a protein in the blood and covers 11 types of cancer. Our vision is to prevent diseases, alleviate suffering, and improve the quality of life of people all over the world. Cancer cells release increased levels of glycoproteins into the bloodstream. These glycoproteins, so-called biomarkers, are cancer antigens and are used in the detection of cancer from human blood. Minute amounts of serum are needed for testing. The Glycanostics testing technology is based on magnetic particles. Antibody-coated magnetic particles selectively extract the desired biomarker from the serum. In the first step, the serum with biomarker is added to the suspension of antibody-coated magnetic particles. The biomarker interacts strongly with the antibody bound to magnetic particles. and is removed from the serum by a magnetic field. A microtiter plate modified with glycan-recognizing biomolecules, so-called receptors, is used to create a sandwich. Receptor plus glycoproteins biomarker plus AB-coated magnetic particles. Within a very short time, a monolayer of magnetic particles is created. And an optical signal, change in color, is generated in the event that the sample contains a biomarker produced by cancer cells. Samples without the cancer-specific biomarker isoform remain clear. The glycanostics test is highly scalable due to the following unique characteristics. It detects early-stage cancers that can be missed by imaging techniques. It is affordable without the need for complex equipment. Highly accurate. It is fast and easy to work with. Minimally invasive. It reduces the number of false positive results, which could lead to reimaging and biopsies. It is fully compatible with automatic equipment commonly used and is potentially applicable to the screening of several different cancer types.
Okay, thank you. We can move to the next slide. Yeah. So what are the learnings and challenges for us as a startup? The first learning, be prepared to work 24/7. I always worked a lot during my career, and just the responsibility for startup, it's just never-ending story. You just work constantly. Be sure that you really build your great team, the team that will bring you success. You cannot achieve success without the team. Make sure that you get really good advisors. Prepare your risk map, list your risks, estimate their probability and impact. Then go and reduce them before they destroy your business. I can't emphasize this enough. Anticipate the risk and manage them, and do it permanently, not just as a single exercise. And, prepare your business plan and work with more scenarios. Again, you cannot reach success without planning success. Implement also state-of-the-art processes. Just learn from industry best practice and simply implement it as soon as possible. And just do not invent the wheel. Look around and utilize all available support. There are so many advisors out there that you can get the support from, and you will really need it. Find a smart investor. As Lucia already mentioned, EIC Accelerator covers only 70% of the project cost. You will need investment to cover the remaining 30%. Invest into marketing. One video would do a better job than 10 presentations. So I'm sure you are going to remember our video, will you? And never ever give up. Just the previous one, please. Never ever give up. If you fail, try different approach. If you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. On the challenges side, investors in Slovakia are usually quite conservative, and they are only learning to invest into startups. Even if they do invest, they prefer startups from other industries like IT that can bring revenues in a very short time. However, investment into life science takes several years until it starts to pay back, and it is associated with very high risk. At the same time, it can bring much higher returns. So there is still a lot of work to be done to educate investors. And here I have to compliment our investor, Crowdberry, for doing an excellent job in this field. We have to stop gold plating, which means creating excessive bureaucracy, unreasonable rules, and numerous documents that are requested, especially here locally, if a company wants to apply for EU funds. This is the #1 reason why here in Slovakia we are unable to utilize EU funds. We simply have to stop it. Cancer does not wait, and we won't wait either. We just go full speed ahead, and we just do need the environment that shares the same sense of urgency. We need grant approval process to take maximum 6 months, followed by fast grant agreement signing. If the process prolongs to 1 or 2 years, which we sometimes observe here locally, the momentum might be lost. Most probably it will be lost. The competition will take the market and file patents before we do, and the startup may simply bankrupt. We need speed. Public procurement is one of the big bureaucratic hurdles here in Slovakia. Just to illustrate, we had to prepare a documentation of approximately 300 pages, and it cost us some 6,000 euros for our advisor, just to procure material in the value of 50,000 euros. This must stop again. And I'm very glad to hear the news from the market that this will be eliminated soon. I understand that financial institutions in some other EU countries are willing to grant loans to companies that received Seal of Excellence for EIC Accelerator or EIC Transition. I prepared this presentation before learning about EU Guarantee Facility. I'm very glad to hear about it. But I'm still not sure whether this financing is available in Slovakia as well, especially if the company still doesn't have any revenues apart from grants, and the only thing the company has is Seal of Excellence. So I really do hope that this might change after the EU Guarantee Facility is fully implemented, and I'm looking forward to discussions with our banks here in Slovakia. And last but not least, in May, I attended the EU Female Founders Group founding event organized by EU Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Together with 35 female founders from all EU countries, we discussed how we can improve conditions for female founders in Europe. And I tell you, from the stories that I've heard, there is a lot of unrealized potential in female-led companies, and we just have to make Europe a better place for them. Next slide, please. When it comes to EIC Accelerator, be ready to have a breakthrough innovation. You really have to be the best to be able to be financed. It is a proof that you have a best innovation once you get EIC Accelerator. You have to have a clear vision on your strategy. It's not enough to have a great innovation. You have to have a strategy how to commercialize it. You have to provide a lot of details about your business strategy during the application process. I would advise you to hire a very senior finance lead project manager that will really help you through the process. If you are in a position of CEO, you really managing a lot of things. You have several heads on your head, and you just need someone who is absolutely confident and experienced in project managing EU funds. Hire experienced consultants. There are consultants out there in the market that can help you through the process of application, and they are really, really helpful. As I already mentioned, get a smart investor, as you will need to finance the 30% of the project cost. And make sure that you have transparent shareholder structure. That will be one of the checks once you have the grant approved. Before you sign the grant agreement, you will have to prove that your shareholder structure is transparent. The process, Lucia will be talking more during the breakout session, but in short, first you apply with the short application in the video. If you get through the first stage, then you prepare a full application, which is approximately 70-80 pages, really detailed application. And then you have the interview where there's a panel of 5 experts that are asking a lot of questions, a lot of detailed questions, and really only after their approval, finally the grant is granted. However, what you will benefit from once you go through all of these, you will benefit from highly transparent and professionally led selection process. I really, really have to compliment the team for the entire process. You will also not meet, because we have not met them, we just read their comments, but we learned that they were really highly experienced evaluators who were reading our application, and then they were providing the comments. So these were also very inspiring for us. There is a professional coach paid by ASMEA that will help you towards the end of the process, and we found it also very useful. There's a highly professional support team, our project manager, our finance manager at ASMEA, really helpful, very helpful. You will also experience a huge recognition from potential partners. Wherever we go, when we present at congresses, and when we tell that we have received the EIC Accelerator grant, everyone raises their eyebrows. Okay, this is a sign of quality. And you will have investors proactively contacting you as soon as your company name appears on the list of the companies that were granted EIC Accelerator grant. Investors again have the confidence that this is an investment that is worth exploring. And definitely, EIC Accelerator is a strong impulse to accelerate your business. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide. Next slide, please. So, okay. So at the beginning, we had a dream. And with the help of EIC Accelerator and other fundings, our dream is slowly but surely coming true. And we promise that we will make it true. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eva, and thank you very much for Lucia for the interesting insights first on the EIC. But really, many thanks to Eva for sharing an exciting journey, and one can really feel in your voice, your excitement. And this is something what is just beautiful to see. It's an exciting story. It's an exciting idea, actually, as far as I could understand. And it's nice to have an insight, and it's good to see how the EU support can actually make a difference. Thanks a lot. So we are super on time, and we will have now a couple of minutes for a couple of questions. So again, dear participants, please don't be shy. Feel free to use Slido and share with us your questions or comments. We are really interested in, in your thoughts. So Eva mentioned the women power, and we have actually a question, and I think, Lucia, maybe you could take it. The question is, does the EIC foresees any action to support women innovators?
Thank you, Hilda. Yes, definitely, of course. I'm also glad that Heva mentioned this group aiming at shape the new policies for financing women founders and CEO in Europe together with our commissioner. As far as concerned the EIC actions, it's also from the EIC to support women innovator. We have a few actions targeting, one is target the interviews of 40% of women-led projects among our beneficiaries. We may, of course, that meant the excellence criteria. Then we also have the EIC Women Leadership Program to support emerging female innovation leaders. We have as well the EIC Prize for Women Innovators to aiming at fund successful companies led by women. And then we have a novelty under the Work Program 2022, which is a pilot innovation gender and diversity index. This will help us to collect data and provide benchmarking and KPIs. Therefore, we can track progress across the European ecosystem. In this program, we also are cooperating with EIT to share good practices and support women-led SME and startups.
Thank you so much. And I would have another question. Really, two more minutes left. Lucia, could you just very quickly tell us who actually performs performs the due diligence for the EIC fund? So how does it work exactly?
Yes, once our companies are selected for blended finance, we have, of course, before performing the investment, our companies should go through a due diligence, which is a quite deep, thorough due diligence, because we have to make sure that public money are poured in the right companies. And it's the EIB, European Investment Bank, which is our advisor, who perform the due diligence. Our companies are contacted right after the selection, and before starting the investment process, the first step of the investment process is indeed the due diligence, and the European Investment Bank start and trigger this process, and thanks to their help, indeed, we can have a clear pictures of our companies before provide funds to those companies. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lucia. In case you have more questions, Lucia will be in room 4. And she's very happy to answer and go a little bit more in depth into the EIC and the details around it. So thank you so much to both of the ladies for this very good session. And now we are coming to our final session today. And we are going to cover the various forms of support to businesses, in particular to SMEs, under the Single Market Programme, which has been actually designed to help the EU single market reach its full potential and ensure Europe's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. One of its goals is to strengthen the competitiveness of the EU industry and especially of SMEs. We have 2 speakers in this session. Our first speaker, Ivan Filus, has more than 25 years of experience with EU business support programs. He is a senior consultant at the Business and Innovation Center, Bratislava. He is an EU project manager, innovation advisor, and the financial and administrative coordinator of the Enterprise Europe network in Slovakia. And we are very glad to have with us Marcel Schuri, who is a co-founder and the CEO of Solargis, a Slovakia-based company which has developed and is operating a digital platform for meteorological data, for our photovoltaic software, and which offers also consultancy to the solar energy industry. So Ivan, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. After several presentations covering grants, investment, and guarantee mechanism for business growth, I will focus on the business environment and services. So my presentation will be targeting single market program and especially the business part of this program. So single market program is a community program proposed and designed for the period of 2021 to 27. And similar to other approaches of the European Commission, it's a kind of integration of the previous programs, such as COSME, Program for Competitiveness of Enterprises and SMEs, European Statistical Program, Program for Reporting and Auditing, consumer involvement, food and feed program, and also consumer program. So you can see now the 6 priorities which the single program is covering in this period. And for all these areas, it has a budget of 4.2 billion euros. Now I will focus on the business part of this program. So let's go to the next slide. And what is the target of the program in the area of business support and SMEs? It is the boost to the competitiveness, sustainability, including the tourism sector. What does it mean in particular? So program will facilitate access to markets, not only within the single market, but also with the third countries, then promote entrepreneurship and acquisition of entrepreneurial skills, and also promote the modernization of industry and address global and social challenges, including the most recent one, facing the post-COVID pandemic problems or the financial crisis connected with the energy crisis. The Single Market Program has several tools which are presented on the next slide, and I will start from the bottom of this slide. The first tool or the general approach of the European Commission is so-called SME strategy. Now it is focusing on more on the sustainable and digital Europe. And of course, it is covering or it is including some very important tools and networks such as Enterprise Europe Network with more than 600 offices around Europe and the world. I will mention them in a while, and also digital innovation hubs, and now new generation of European digital innovation hubs that will start very soon. The EU SME strategy is focusing on improving access to markets, is dealing with late payment directive, is also including the SME test, focusing on possible effects of EU legislation proposal on SMEs, about the issues of taxation and accounting and their impact on SMEs, and of course the startup procedures. Again, this is a very important strategy that is trying to have the SMEs as a central point for European economy, and is also organizing very important events or series of events like European SME Week and SME Assembly, as well as SME Performance Review, which is assessment of countries' progress implementing the SME strategy and Small Business Act. Another tool is SME Envoy Network, which was set up in 2011. For Slovakia, our envoy is Mr. Jan Oravec, who is a state secretary for Ministry of Economy. And the role of the envoys is to promote the SME's interest in the country, to be like a mediator between the European Commission initiative supporting the SME and national legislation, and also are dealing with the reports on the implementation of SME policy actions. I would like to also mention the cluster initiatives, which are very important, as this is a kind of new generation of actions involving industrial clusters, which are putting together the specialist enterprises, and also from the various part of Quadruple Helix, including universities and also public administration, and they are putting together and helping them to be more competitive on the European level in the form of creating European cluster partnership, European cluster collaboration platform, and of course the cluster mapping, where you can find the clusters around you. Also, there is a specific information about the Slovakia. So if you are interested in, and I really encourage you to get in contact with the local cluster that may help you very much in your respective area. And in my following presentation, I will go through the first 3 points from this slide, and I will start with Enterprise Europe Network. Enterprise Europe Network is the largest network in Europe, which is trying to help the companies in two main areas, which is internationalization and innovation. The network was founded in 2008, but was not starting from the scratch, but it was like a continuation of previous initiatives of the European Commission, like Euro Info Networks and Innovation Relay Centers. Now the network has representation in 67 countries. So as you can see, this is far more than the members of the European Union. You will see the map in a while. We are operating in more than 600 locations, and we have about 3,000 local experts, which are providing free of charge services to SMEs. The program that is funding the Enterprise Europe Network is a single market program that I mentioned before. On the next slide, you will see the basic services what we are providing. You can go to the next slide, please. We are trying to help the SMEs, the local SMEs in our case in Slovakia, to support them in what we call the client journey. So from the very beginning, from the first contact to successful cooperation with the partners abroad and successful international or global business and increasing their innovation capacities. We are trying to help them with international partnership. We are doing that through the partnership database. Currently, we have several thousands of profiles, business or technology, that we have requests and offers. You can search. The database is available through our website. I will show you in a while. And you can also prepare your own. So if you are interested in a presentation of your business or technology offer or business or technology request, or be part of European programs, don't hesitate to get in touch with the local representatives, and we will try to help you. We are also organizing events for supporting the partnership, such as brokerage events and company missions. Now, in this pandemic period, the most of the events were organized online, which is decreasing the cost of the SMEs and are very, very efficient. I would say there is almost one event per day all around Europe or world, somehow supported by Enterprise Europe Network. The full list is available at our website, and the majority of them is free of charge. So I would really recommend you to check which are the events that are organized within your thematic field, and a part of very good presentations. You can find a lot of potential partners for the future cooperation. Except of the partnership, we are also providing targeted advisory support, such as advice about EU laws and standards, which is sometimes very crucial for starting business, and especially business based on technologies. We are providing so-called market intelligence. So if the company is interested to make a branch or establish a production plant in a different country, in the Europe or in the third country, there is a lot of regulation and specific requirements that are necessary to be fulfilled. So we are trying to help them and connect them with local partners that may be of further help. We are also advising the companies in intellectual property rights, such as protection and also further exploitation. We are also focusing on innovation support. First of all, it is access to finance and funding. This was mentioned from a lot of angles today. We are also providing the innovation management services, which is the specific package of services focused on the innovative companies, from the diagnostic of their needs to formulation of the action plans towards their better competitive level in development of the products and subsequent commercialization. And we are also supporting technology transfer, not only in the pure commercial area, but also based on the research results from the academic partners. On the next slide, you will see how the network is covering the whole world. As I mentioned, it is not only the EU. We have 40 more countries around the world, and if you want to establish cooperation or know the specific condition in the respective country, we can help you. We can make contact with the local EN representative in the respective country and provide you with more details. So don't hesitate to contact us for more information in this regard. Also, there is a new generation of the Enterprise Europe Network started from the January this year. And on the next slide, I will try to summarize the main priorities we are focusing on. This is something that this as addition to what we have provided so far. So this is focusing on the digitalization, which is one of the main priorities of the European Commission towards small and medium-sized enterprises. It is with close cooperation with the before mentioned digital innovation hubs. We are also trying to help SME resilience, especially in the current situation where the SMEs are facing the problems of or aftermath of the several crises that are currently around us and need really a lot of help to overcome and sustain competitive. We are also trying to help them in the sustainability area. We have established the position of sustainability advisors in each region, and these sustainability advisors are trying to help the companies with all the problems that are connecting with legislation, conformity with the legislation, or with be more ecological and sustainable for the future. And also, we are trying to help the SMEs to get benefit of free trade agreements. There's also there are specific services that are connected to European to EIC that are somehow connected to what was mentioned before. That European Innovation Council is providing the funding to companies, but usually the widening countries, which Slovakia is part of, is that they have a quite low success rate. So there will be specific action to support to companies that are applying for the EIC from the widening countries, and also for women-led SMEs, and also for those companies that are awarded by the Seal of Excellence. And for those companies, we will try to help them with additional access to finance in order to be more competitive and get additional funding from the investors. On the next slide, I would like to present you who we are in Slovakia. Sorry, so this is before that. It is the road from where we started. It's from 2008, where the network was established, through 2014. Where the services for innovation management were launched. In 2017, we launched the specific services for scale-ups, because this is also another target group what we are facing. We are trying to support, because there's quite a big gap between the startup phase and the scale-up phase. And those companies needs a lot of advice in terms of access to funding and innovation processes and so on. And as I mentioned, in 2021, there was a start of a new generation of the EEN, where from the beginning, from 2008, we have all around Europe, all around the world, we have supported more than 2.9, almost 3 million SMEs. And how is it in Slovakia? The next slide will show you the results of Enterprise Europe Network in Slovakia since we have started in 2008. So we have supported almost 20,000 SMEs, the local SMEs that benefited from different network services. We have supported almost 7,000 SMEs in partnering services, and organized more than 18,000 business meetings in our events. We have supported more than 10,000 SMEs with information advice, and almost 1,500 SMEs got advice from our partners, really in-depth advice about different types of innovative and international growth. The problems. We have also supported almost 300 SMEs in those innovation packages, where we develop the innovation strategies and the innovation processes for better and efficient organization of the company. And at the end of all this effort, we have more than 400 companies with we call this significant impact, which means that there is a transnational cooperation agreement and a contract with another partner or significant advisory achievement in a form of grant, loan, new market possibilities, and things like this. Okay, so and who we are in Slovakia. And the next slide, you will see the current consortium. We are 6 partners with more than 30 advisors, and we are all over Slovakia. The Enterprise Europe Network, the Slovak representation, is coordinated by Business Innovation Center in Bratislava, and we are implementing the project with partners: Slovak Business Agency, Slovak Chamber of Commerce Industry, Regional Advisory and Information Center, Slovak Center for Scientific and Technical Information and Technical University in Košice. So we have, as I mentioned, more than 30 advisors in different areas, so don't hesitate to contact us. There is a website, en.sk, with more information about what we are doing. On the next slide, there is a sample of the client journey of SolarGIS that I'm very happy that we have Marcel Schuri from this very successful scale up. So this is just an example of how we are supporting the client. So there was a first contact in January 2018. Based on this, we have developed the action plan based on needs analysis and developed the innovation strategy where we have focused on the product new to the world and then financing strategy. We have supported them in application in EIC pilot and the final call of the EIC pilot. So the company was awarded twice by Seal of Excellence. And Slovakia was lucky that there was a national call for the Seal of Excellence funded by the Ministry of Economy. And in September 2021, the company won the grant of 1.4 million euros. So this was a very nice example of successful client journey. Now I would like to focus on 2 more programs or tools that I will briefly mention. The first one is Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs, which is the program that is focusing on the new or aspiring entrepreneurs and offering them a cross-border exchange with entrepreneurs that are experienced. So this is like a connection of these 2 groups, and so far the more than 10,000 exchanges, cross-border exchanges, were supported by the program. And on the next slide, I will show you how the system works. So first of all, if you can go to the next slide, please. So everything is on the website. So first of all, the applicant should check the eligibility criteria, then prepare a CV and a motivation letter and a kind of a business plan. Then submit the short application to the program website, and then with the support of the local office, find his partner. And then if everything is approved, so the exchange may start. In Slovakia, we have 2 support offices. You can see them on the next slide. The first one is in Prešov, is Education Innovation Center Velmax. And the second one is Italian Slovak Chamber of Commerce in Bratislava. You can contact any of them and you can get more advice about this very successful program. Another initiative I would like to mention is the Intellectual Property Help Desk. This is very important initiative of the European Commission that is dealing with the intellectual property, not only for those companies that are involved in the European projects, but also for the other SMEs that are thinking about the protecting and then exploiting their research results with some kind of IP protection. So what does the Intellectual Property Help Desk provides? It is the helpline. Usually within 3 working days, you will get the answer to your questions. It is providing the different trainings, either online or on-site workshop. We are also cooperating with them very much, and we are organizing at least 1 IP workshop per year with the European IP Help Desk. There is a very huge IP resources library. If you are interested in this, please check the country fact sheets, beautiful infographics, information about design, how to search the IP, the copyrights, the trade secrets, trademarks, and really very important information. You can find there also IP tools, and you can also benefit of the Horizon IP scan, which is a free of charge service that is trying to help the companies. This is for the companies that are entering or part of the European project, and this IP scan is evaluating the current state of the company and show how the company can protect the existing IP, and as a result of the project, how can manage and exploit new IP that is jointly generated. On the next slide, you can see that the IP Help Desk is not only about Europe. We have the other branches. One is in Asia. We have one in India. One is in Latin America. So if you are also focusing on those countries, you can find the specific information in their website. So, and I will conclude with the contact information first to the ambassadors. For IP Help Desk in 27 countries, we have 44 ambassadors. For Slovakia, it is Lubomír Kucka, who is also member of the Enterprise Europe Network. And if you need any more information, please don't hesitate to contact him. And this is it for the support services from Single Market Program, Enterprise Europe Network, and the related tools. So, and I'm really happy that we have Marcel Šuri here, who is the CEO of Solargis company, very successful Slovak scale-up we have worked with, and we have joined them in their journey. So, Marcel, please, if you can spread the word about your journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. I am CEO of company Solargis, which operates in energy market, more specifically in solar energy. And I'm working in this field already for more than 20 years. And actually, I choose this graph to show it as a background to our story. I started working in Joint Research Center in 2001. That was very early beginnings of solar photovoltaics in Europe. As you can see on this graph prepared by Wood and Mackenzie, the growth of solar photovoltaics was very slow over the next 10 years. And I was working as a researcher on a project which helped me to understand what are the needs of future industry so that it can operate more effectively on an energy market. Over those 2 decades, solar photovoltaics became the cheapest energy power generation technology available. So the prices probably fall down by roughly 5 times from the time when I started in R&D. And Today, solar photovoltaics becomes one of the key promises for mitigating our climate change problems, but also for resolving the problem of geopolitical instability due to imbalance in energy consumption and supply. And interestingly, also photovoltaics is an industry which is strongly dependent on weather. It's clear that it produces energy when we have nice sunshine. It doesn't produce in the night, and there is some variability when we have clouds. All these are factors which are one of the key challenges of investing or installing more solar power plants and having them integrated into the grid so that we have stable and reliable power. So over the time, complexity of these projects increased. There is a higher risk in a more competitive environment. And all this is underlined by the need for good software services, and all this driven by digital methodology, because understanding the weather helps us to understand how solar electricity is produced and what we can do to manage the variability. So as we can see, the industry is supposed to grow dramatically, and therefore, but this one of the key enablers of this growth is sophisticated, smart IT and very well managed digital methodology as part of this IT ecosystem. Next slide, please. So SolarGis is active on the market since 2010. We operate in the software services. We offer online services, which are mainly based on the calculation and supply of meteorological data, software for energy simulation, for energy analysis, and all this serves technical people, engineers, but also financial people who are in project development, then operation of existing solar power generation assets. This includes monitoring and also solar power forecasting. All these are software tools and services which are needed for us to be able to manage variable solar power generation. We offer all these services through digital platform, online cloud-based services, and also we support all this by technical consultancy. Company started already more than 1 decade ago, and we went from the phase of typical startup, where two of us, co-founders, started the company, myself and Tomáš Cebecauer. And today, the company has more than 100 staff in headquarters in Bratislava. We have established a new business office and technical office in Toronto, Canada, and we are preparing for geographical expansion to Asia. Over the time, we reached the customer base of something less than 1,000 in almost 100 countries. And we also attracted talents from a couple of countries, not only in Europe, but also outside of Europe. Today, in SolarGis, we have nationalities from about 17 various countries or continents. And apparently, this sector is attracting people who are willing to contribute to the development of this type of services. Interesting is the story how the company grew. We started in times when photovoltaics was barely known. barely known in Europe, not speaking about the world. So we started like, okay, let's do something for Europe, for European industry. Hopefully there is a need for these services soon, rather soon than later, because those times industry heavily was dependent on policy support, political support. But fortunately soon, photovoltaics grew in other markets like India, South Africa, Chile, North America, of course, and so on. And we realized that there is much more to do than just working in for European industry. Today, we are offering services globally, and we see a lot of potential expanding in various markets, building stronger physical presence and being closer to customers. All this happened, next slide please, with more or less under conditions that we started financing all this activity with our own money. But very important kickoff or very important impetus to our, let's say, survival was research grant from Slovak Agency for Science and Development for development and research. But over the years, the company grew relatively in a linear way and steadily, but all this was based on internal financing. So we more or less financed a company from the profit and from internal resources. But then, and why was that? Because for many years, photovoltaics was, as I said, very strongly dependent on political decisions. So it was always the market which was like stop and go. That means nobody really knew what happens next year. So there was a lot of stagnation, especially in Europe, a lot of hesitation, and investment was blocked by simply this unfavorable situation that there is not really strong policy, strong push. But as the year passed by, the technology became cheaper and cheaper, and photovoltaics became more and more attractive from the purely commercial investment point of view. Today, photovoltaics is practically independent and can compete on the energy market practically with any other technology, and that's very different situation. So what this meant for us, that at a few years back we realized that now it's time to start thinking about much more accelerated growth. We are not able to grow with our own resources. We need to start looking for some additional support. Thankfully, over the last few years, we were lucky to get access to several sources of funding. First of all, I would also like to mention that there was a very important collaboration, which was already mentioned by Ivan, with Bratislava Innovation Center, which started with helping us to better formulate our innovation strategy and business strategy as something which should open new horizons to us and think a little bit differently. But then we started preparing a project for EIC Accelerator, which we submitted the project 2 times. In both cases, we received Seal of Excellence, but we were not lucky to get the financing. Only with the help of the funding today received from the Ministry of Economy, and the funding actually comes from European structural funds. We were able to start more accelerated growth thanks to the grant received through EIC Accelerator. In addition, we received grant from the Horizon 2020 from a project which is called Serenity PV, which is running for 4 years. And we are quite important partner here in the consortium of 14 European members, developing mainly technical solutions and new methodologies for making photovoltaics more effective, more reliable, better to be able better integrate into the energy grids. So this is scientific R&D project. And in addition to this, we received a grant. We were successful in receiving a grant from European Space Agency on a project which is more looking into short-term forecasting of solar power. That means being able through digital technology, digital meteorological and satellite technology to forecast electricity in the matter of minutes to hours. I have to mention that all these, all our activities were supported or were based on our internal development. All methods, all technology which we are today operating is developed in-house and is based on the use of European and global meteorological infrastructure, satellites, meteorological models, cloud-based computing, large volume of data management and processing, and analytical systems. So all these are technologies which are today, which we operate and which we are still strongly developing. And last slide, please. And next slide, please. So how this translates into the growth of the company. I intentionally put here this graph to show that with the help of funding our Seal of Excellence project, we were able to really accelerate the growth which is both technical development, faster, more ambitious, more rasant development of technical technology, but also business development. Business development meaning being geographical expansion, building subsidiaries, building physical presence in key markets, being able to serve our technical services closer to the customer. So this funding helped us to accelerate this, but we realized that it's far from enough. And we are looking now today intensively to expand, let's say, to look for investment which would keep the momentum of which we received, which we achieved from by EC Accelerator. And this investment, we got a lot of proposals, mainly from North America, but we see that it's not only about money, it's also about smart money and receiving support from some investment group which would help us also to get critical know-how, how to expand on how to more efficiently grow the company to be able to be competitive on the global markets and to be partner for large energy companies. So that's roughly the situation with us, and we are very much looking forward to find the right the most feasible way how to invest, how to get investment into the company for keeping the growth as planned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcel, for your for the insights actually into a scale-up company, and I truly hope that you will find the investment for the next stage here in Europe, and you will not need to go to North America, then as unfortunately many of the European companies, scale-up companies do. So all the best for the future. And thank you very much also to Ivan for sharing us the different support tools Slovak businesses are offered by the Enterprise Europe Network and beyond. Thank you so much. Ivan will join us together with the Commission colleagues in the first breakout rooms. So because we are just on time now, I would like to take your questions in this first room if you have any on the Enterprise Europe Network and the tools. And with this, dear ladies and gentlemen, we would like to warmly thank you for joining us this morning to learn more about InvestEU, the European Innovation Council, and the Single Market Programme. Thank you for your engagement. It was a great pleasure to be here with you today. I would also like to thank to our excellent speakers and all my colleagues who helped organizing this event today. But please don't leave just yet. We are going to open now in a couple of minutes the 4 breakout rooms in order to give you the opportunity to directly ask our experts, our speakers about the EU financial support. So please join one of the breakout rooms and take this opportunity for asking your questions and networking a bit. How can you access the breakout rooms? Very quickly, the easiest way is to click on the links to the 4 breakout rooms on Slido. Another way is to go to the end of the agenda at the event website, where you will also find the 4 links. The first link leads to the breakout room where, as mentioned, the Commission colleagues and Enterprise Europe Network Slovakia will answer your questions. If you want to know more about the InvestEU implementation, please click the second link to room 2 in case you are interested in the debt products, and please click on the third link to room 3 if you want to know more details around the equity products. The last link will lead you to the breakout room number 4, where you can ask questions about the European Innovation Council Fund and above all how the EIC accelerator works. And for those who are not joining us in the breakout rooms, please don't forget to fill out the short evaluation survey, which you will receive by email in the next coming days. The feedback will really help us to shape the content of future webinars, so we really count on you. So, Jacquiem, thanks again for attending this webinar, and see you straight away in one of the breakout rooms. Thank you. Bye-bye.